that I'm a freak when I'm talking to myself, but it's like I was too weak to be someone else. You could think that I'm a creep when I'm singing all alone, but it's like I couldn't see straight on my own. When I fall, we start again, and when I feel like I'm just dead, and when I call, it comes again, and now I see it's in my head. Yeah, there's something that saves me all the time in my say. Yeah, it surfaces when I'm breaking down, like a whisper in my head, coming from out of nowhere, like a whisper in my head, when I got something to share, like a whisper in my head, when I'm unable to speak, coming from somebody else. Now I know it is just stronger than myself. That's the way I have to live. Now they fall down every night. In the end, I'm not alone, and that's my light. When I fall, it start again. And when I feel like I'm just dead, and when I call, it comes again. And now I see it's in my head. Yeah, there's something that saves me all the time in my say. Yeah, it surfaces when I'm breaking down, like a whisper in my head, coming from out of nowhere, like a whisper in my head, when I got something to share. You think that I'm a freak when I'm talking to myself, but it's like I was too weak to be someone else. You could think that I'm a creep when I'm singing all alone, but it's like I couldn't see straight on my own. Yeah, there's something that saves me all the time in my say. Yeah, it surfaces when I'm breaking down, like a whisper in my head, coming from out
Is it possible to predict?
like a whisper in my head, when I got something to share.
Simrigs, I know your name. Don't hide from me, 'cause I see all your pain. It's written in your eyes. You and I, we are one. Born in the same, for better or for worse. The dreams are our curse. We are united in our pain. So tell me why we live like angels with no halos, walking blind.
Hello and welcome to Octane Online Racing. We're back with the Simrigs Sprint Series here. It's season 17 and round 2 coming up for you today at the legendary Italian circuit of Misano. 4.2 kilometers of fantastic drive-through territory and 16 corners for these drivers to navigate today. We will be presenting you with split yellow tonight and split green coming up later on. But for now, it is myself, George Cook, alongside Breno Ellis and Brent Sykes in the commentary booth tonight, bringing you all the action for today's racing in split yellow. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to both of you. Lovely to be in the commentary box with you and looking forward to a great race today. How are you doing?
Oh,
Doing very
likewise,
good, George.
Jules. Yes, doing very well. Hello, chat. Hello, fellas.
Absolutely right. This is going to be a good one. So we've got 15 minutes of qualifying ahead of us, which is happening right now, and then a 60-minute race with 2 mandatory pit stops. And as I hear, it's going to be a sunset race too. Talk about throwing a cat in amongst the pigeons.
That's right. I think it should be make for a very interesting race, nice and picturesque. And I think we've also got a slight chance of rain. So if that happens, it might mix things up even more.
Yes, well, as we were just discussing before, we're hoping for the drivers' sakes that there is no rain while there's nighttime driving, because there's not very many lights around this circuit. So once you're out of the pit straight, you are basically in pitch black darkness, and that can be a very, very tricky scenario. We're all having flashbacks to the 12 hours of Misano from the Endurance Series last season, but we're hoping that they won't be encountering too many scenarios like that today. And the question really is going to be who's going to get on pole. Getting away quickly and early and nicely is going to be a big advantage here. Lots of tricky corners as well. You've got the likes of Rio. You've got the turn 10 into the long back straight, and then that very, very fast complex after that, turn 11, 12, 13. Really makes it a challenge for the drivers. And I think there's going to be some cars that are going to be maybe more suited to a track like this than others.
Yeah, 100%. Misano, very technical track. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the mid and rear-engined, if there is any rear-engined. I think I do see a portion of the grid there. We're going to see those cars excel here. Obviously, the McLaren being incredibly strong. We are running the LFM BOP tonight, so the cars should be a little closer than they would be if we weren't. I know the BMW incredibly strong here, has a fair amount of ballast. Ferrari, always a good all-rounder. McLaren, pretty strong. The Porsche, agile, and with tight corners like this here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that one up near the top. Looks like it's McDowell, I think I can see in the Porsche there, the lone Porsche in the grid. So I know who I'm rooting for tonight, as I'm a Porsche fanboy myself.
That's understandable, and I'll be fanboying for all the McLarens out there, of which there are not a lot. I mean, there's a lot of Ferraris out on the grid. Ferrari definitely seems to be a prime choice, whether it's just split yellow or if it's just the general feel for this track. I'm not 100% sure. You're right, there's 39 kilograms of ballast on the BMW, so that's a lot. It's obviously extremely powerful at a circuit like this.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the likely suspect, at Misano here. As I was saying, a fairly tight technical track, so you thought the mid-engines and the rear-engine cars would dominate here, but obviously I reckon the Beamer has some pretty good acceleration out the corners, and that's what gives it, and a bit of top speed down the straight as well, where a couple of the other cars struggle a little. It's all that mid-speed acceleration, because it's not the longest straight, and it's just enough to get up to, I'd say about 250 km/h before you throw it into that quick right-hander, which is going to get tricky on worn tyres and into the dark, as we're expecting this race to finish.
Yeah, and of course, with 2 mandatory pit stops, they will have a pretty good chance to get onto fresh tyres and mostly keep those throughout the race. I mean, 20 minutes on a tyre. If you third the strategy over the 60 minutes, then your tyres are maybe not going to be as stressed as they could be if this was a one-stopper, of course. So you shouldn't see too many people encountering the problem. I think really it's going to be the consistency for all the drivers here. Where are you finding your track limits? How many are you getting? How many have you racked up early on? We've seen in real-life racing here tons and tons of people trying to go and take a slight cut through the first S's, which usually does happen on the starting grid for the first few laps. That does tend to happen. That's not going to work here because the drive-throughs will inevitably stop it. And there's a few areas where the drive-throughs are just, absolutely, you're right on the limit. The exit from Rio, it's a really, I love the braking zone into it, but the car is all sorts of unruly throughout that couple of corners. And on exit, you have to get that power down as soon as possible. Suddenly you find yourself wide, you're on the curb, the car's bouncing, and you got yourself a drive-through.
That's right. With all the nice flat concreted runoff, it sort of invites you out to that outside edge, and then before you know it, you've got yourself a little warning coming out of turn 6 there. It can be pretty dangerous. Another spot can be in between turn 13 and 14 down the back, down to Curva del Caro. If you're not careful there, you can sometimes get a 2-for-1 on the old track limit warning, running wide in between the 2 corners. So hopefully the guys will watch out for that.
Yeah, point in fact, we just saw Mitch Hobbs do exactly that, running really, really wide. On board now with the Ferrari of Daniel Webb. Currently, the standings look like this. Jacob Maggs leading us away in the 86. Ferrari, a 132.8, and he is nearly 6/10 clear of the field so far. Then Mitch Hobbs, who we did just see have that issue, as we do see Webb just say, no, that was not going to be a good lap, time to get back to the pits and try again. Daniel Webb P3, and then Sean Bubb now up into P4 at the moment in the 165 car. So not a bad lap time there, 133.4. It's pretty close, actually. P2, P3, P4, all separated by about 0.08 of a second. Then you fall down a little bit. Maddox's not done the best lap. I think definitely going to find some time out there, finding some time right now. We're currently looking at Jack Steele, the 996. It's an Aston Martin. It's very colorful, and across the line they'll go. Let's have a look and see what kind of lap time he has been able to produce for LK Racing. Up to P7. That is not a shabby lap at all. Across the line, Mike Crick, who I believe will be joining us in the commentary box tomorrow night for Split Blue and Split Red. Across the line goes P19 for Pixel Races. So another beautiful livery, I believe, designed by himself. Spinaze as well. He's going around. So here's one of the BMWs. Let's have a little look at how he navigates through turn 10, because that is one of the trickiest traction zones on the circuit. And it is 29 degrees Celsius on the tarmac. It does give you a little bit more advantage for grip, but does mean that when your grips and tires get out of the window, you rapidly do lose grip. He'd look pretty stable throughout there, I'd say.
See how he goes into here. Oh, a bit too much curb there. I think he might have just pushed the track limits there. He's continuing on, so I don't think he invalidated there, or he's going in for another lap. He's going to set up his run out into the last corner. As we see a McLaren there, not too happy with his lap time there, or just gets a bit of a snap coming out of the penultimate corner. 4/10 up for Spinazi here. That's going to put him into the top 5 almost, I reckon. P6 by a 100th of a second, so he should be pretty proud of that lap time. 33.6, nothing to snub at. So we see Steele here, another 3/10 up and gaining through this last corner. Oh, lose the touch on exit here. Still going to be 4/10 up across the line. There's a 33.4. That's going to put him up into P3 provisionally with 6 minutes left in quali.
That was a very, very decent lap there. And that was Sean Bubnow that we saw in the wall earlier on. I think he was just pushing that last 2 corners as much as you can. The McLaren can really... And that's an invalidation. Slade, unfortunately, through the exit of the Rio complex. Not going to be happy with that. But yeah, that was Sean Bubnow. The McLaren, it either flows beautifully through the circuit, but as soon as... Because you run a very low profile on it, it does tend to get very, very jumpy if you ride the curbs in just the wrong angle. And that is kind of the same with most cars here, to be fair. Maybe the BMW a little bit more stable, a little bit more accepting of some of those curbs, and we saw it on the exit of turn 12 and 13 there, and it was absolutely fine going across the curbs. But I know for a fact that the the McLaren is not a happy chappy through this corner right here. You get that ever so slightly wrong, and it'll just spit you out in the wrong direction. Baskovas on for a good lap here, up by 3/10. This could be on for well in the top 5. Just out of it by 5/1000th of a second.
Yeah, it's tightening up the top. I think Mags has got provisional pole here by, well, maybe even pole, if I dare say it. Here, he's cleared the field by, as you're saying, almost 6/10. I don't think many people just behind him are improving, but after that, we've got about 5 drivers and about a 10th almost. It looks like, and people just keep on putting in lap times, just slotting in. I reckon we'll have about 7 drivers and 2/10 up near the pointy end of the field by the end of quali in about 4.5 minutes time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, just running through the lap times right now, Jacob Maggs has set a 1:32.83. Last lap was a 33.41. Then it's Mitch Hobbs, a 0.405. And I don't need to read out the rest because it's all the same. Jack Steele, 0.430. Daniel Webb's a 0.437, 700 thousandths of a second. Then 3 thousandths of a second to Sean Bubnow in P5. Then Stan Buskovas is another 5 thousandths of a second behind. Then there's a bit of a gap by about, I'd say, 2/10 or so. But yeah, top 6 right now, separated by, well, P2 to P6, separated by absolutely nothing. But so far, the only person to get into the 32s has been Jacob Maggs.
Yeah, absolutely blistering lap time of 32.8. Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's going to be able to touch him at this point in time. But I mean, not to snub at the other times, like a low 33s are not a bad lap time by any means. But Maggs is absolutely destroying at this point in time. As we see Buskovas improve, he goes to a 32.3 just, and puts himself on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, so we've finally broken the curse of the 33.4, which is good to see. But that's the thing, it's optimum conditions out there. I feel like, you know, Misano is such a confidence track. You're always fighting with the grip. Whenever you feel low, you're usually fast. Whenever you feel fast, you're usually slow. I think this circuit really accentuates that. Hobbs is on for a really good time here. He's found a 0.2 of a second. A little bit on the exit there, nearly to the final corner. He looks pretty stable through there. Yeah, keeps the power on, loses a little bit of time. Into the final corner we go. Doesn't use all the curb on the outside. That's going to shallow out the corner a bit. Does lose a bit of time because of that, but it's an extra 10th, and it will be good enough for P2. He'll go across the line, and no, I stand corrected by 2 1,000ths of a second.
That's the margins here are ridiculous. I did see something quite interesting. I don't know if the keen-eyed viewers at home might have picked up on this as well. That instead of lifting through that penultimate corner, he actually just held the brakes just a touch, about 5-10% on the brakes there, instead of lifting off, just to keep those turbos spooled, I would imagine. So interesting tactic there by Mitch Hobbs. Might have to give that one a go. Despite not driving a turbo car, but I'll give that a go. Might get better rotation with that as well, using the brake instead of letting off. Because obviously you're still holding the weight over that front axle by braking instead of letting off and squatting back down a little.
Yeah, so probably gives us a little bit of an opportunity for the turbo just to stay at a more optimum position. But you know, with that last corner, it's really deceptive. You feel like you need to brake, but in a lot of circumstances you don't really need to. But the margins are so close. If you do get it slightly wrong, whether it's over the curbs on the inside or over the curbs on the exit, it's just, you know, buckets of time. You just have a huge leaky bucket in that delta, and you can lose it all very, very quickly. But certainly, the fastest laps I've done has been just, you know, lift off, absolutely send the car in, full lock, and see what happens in terms of quali laps, and it usually works. Looking at Mitch Hobbs here, he has found a lot of time, nearly 0.3 of a second. That drops a little bit on the exit of the final corner. 0.2 of a second. He will be up quite significantly, and it is 1/10 away from being in the 32 club. Not quite there yet, Mitch, but go again. Actually, you won't be able to because there's only 50 seconds on the clock. We're just having too much fun in qualifying already. We could just have a 60-minute race of hot laps.
Oh, it'd be good. As we see Bob now here on screen, loses a bit out the exit of the Rio complex, as you were saying. It's a deceptive corner, that one. Very, very easy to get track limits as well. But yeah, he's just hovering around that 10th.5 up mark. That would put him just into the top 4 at this point in time. Might have a bit more time in... Oh, he gets a pretty good exit onto the back straight here. Loses a touch, so we'll see what he can do on the final sector here, but he's on for a pretty good lap time.
Such a tricky section coming up through here. Just got to have full confidence. There'll be a little bit of brake. Yes, downshift does use third, so just making sure that he's getting the rotation into that. Yeah, launches nicely into the apex, runs deep over the curve on the apex, and doesn't run too deep on the exit. That's really important, so you get the traction. Loses a little bit on the entrance for the final second to last corner, I should say. Yeah, he's gained a little bit more time. Oh, it's close. He has found a 10th, though.
Yep. It's going to put him up into P4.
Not too shabby. You know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, as you said before, early, and that there was a faster lap there, but it wasn't valid, unfortunately. Spinaze, one of the only out there now, him and Sean Bubb now in the top 10 who are still on a lap. The 560 car has just jumped up to P10. We had a question about that in chat. So number 560, Kafil Slade in the car, P10 at the moment. Looks like he's going for another lap, but may have already invalidated. And yeah, Spinazi, no improvement there. And that is going to be qualifying done for split yellow. I was about to say sprint yellow. Split yellow. Now with 60 minutes on the clock, it's going to go nighttime now because it is 9 p.m. out there in Italy and 15 degrees track Celsius. It is optimum, luckily for all the drivers, but that's a big difference from a daytime being at 30 degrees optimum on the track to now where we are. It's much, much cooler. It's only going to get cooler. You're contending with night. Your braking zones are going to be a little bit trickier to see, and of course that grip's just not going to be with you. So the conditions, I would say, are fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. As the temperature drops off after pit stops and that sort of thing, guys might have to start thinking about graining on the tires as they cool down. Not pushing them too hard out of their pit stops, and same thing if drive-throughs happen. Your tires cool down in that 30 seconds or so traveling through the pit straight, and can make your tires not happy when you get back onto the gas.
So let's go around the room here in the commentary box in terms of strategies and what we think might be happening. We'll go for a grid walk at the same time, but have a think and we'll see what we come up with in terms of strategies here. I personally, with two stops on the line, I'd be looking to maybe pit early, get myself out of traffic, and then just manage the pace through a couple of longer stints. What do we think, Brent?
I think it's a little bit situational. I'm more of a fan of going long in that first stint, just in case there's weather or anything like that. But pitting early to get yourself out of traffic is definitely an advantage at most tracks in ACC, Misano included.
Brilliant.
I don't know how many guys will be doing the split 20-minute sessions. We might get a couple of hot lap sort of fuel loads at some stage during the race, which should make things fun.
Absolutely. And just before we go to Breno, it is Mull's very, very famous drone flight around the circuit. And as always, he's just getting better and better at doing this. Absolutely fantastic work from our broadcaster, Neil, tonight. So a big thank you to him. Oh, drone's doing something slightly weird there. No, that's okay. That's not too bad. Breno, your thoughts on strategy tonight, mate?
Well, I mean, as you guys were saying, I'd almost say going and pitting, getting the two pit stops out of the way. You're gonna, obviously, as you're saying, George, you're gonna pull yourself away from traffic. You're not gonna be sitting in the train, which, as it gets darker and darker, is probably going to be beneficial just because you can spot your braking markers a little bit easier. You won't have cars obstructing them. And then again, you're also going to get those tires up to pressure before it gets really cold, because I think we're going to see 10, 11 degrees by the race end tonight, considering we're starting at 15 air and 15 track. But then again, you are going to be losing just on older tires to the guys that are doing the 3x20 or maybe are going longer on their first stint.
Yeah, that's right. I think, managing the point in the race where you're going to be lower on grip and running a bit longer and having slightly less pace, I think that will be key. Now, hopefully, Mull will be able to show us a nice underfly of the bridge at the pit straight. Let's see if he can pull this one off, everyone. He's going for it, and under we go. Yep, that is beautiful flying there from Mull. Absolutely what we expect. Double under the bridge. Yes, it is. All right, that's a world record. Very nice work. We are now going on our formation lap here, getting ready for 60 minutes ahead of us, and love that the camera can jump across the sandbar like that. Absolutely love to see it. Beautiful liveries, as always, here in split yellow, so a big hats off to everyone who's done their liveries up. Beautiful work, as always. In terms of the starting grid, we've got Jacob Maggs from Mitch Hobbs, from Stan Buskovitz, and then we've got Sean Bubnout, Jack Steele, Daniel Webb, Robert Maddox, Harsh Kumar up in the P8. We didn't actually see that. Then Matthew Spinazzi, and then Kafil Slade, your top 10 at the moment. I think we may have a couple who didn't qualify throughout that qualifying session, so we might see some fightbacks throughout the grid today. But as we head through towards the long back straight, this is going to be a really good one. Chances of rain here, I think, are pretty low. So I guess we will see, but it could be pretty exciting, though, couldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's going to be a little argy-bargy at the start. Like Misano, as I keep on saying, very technical track. Not too many overtaking opportunities. Your real big ones are just getting a better exit out onto that back straight, and just being braver around that right-hander. If the car's still on the inside on you, there's turn 1 and 2. You can't really do a whole lot. Turn 3, we might see a couple sends up the inside there. I can imagine, and into the large hairpin at about turn 5, I reckon it would be. Turn 6 potentially are the real big overtaking opportunities of the circuit. So I think it's going to be I think strategy is going to come into overtaking more so than on track.
Couldn't agree more. And yes, Rio will be one to watch out for. Turn 4, 5, 6, very tricky, especially on lap 1. The track temperature is already dropping down to 14 degrees already. A little bit of a light headwind here, 7 kilometers per hour. But it is cloudy, overcast conditions here. We're going to begin split yellow, green flag racing for 60 minutes, and the lights are out. And here we go for round 2 of season 17. Mags has got a terrible time off the line. Hobbs has gone up straight into the lead. The BMW so quick off the line there. Advantage to Hobbs. And then we're going to have Sean Bubnow and Stan. And then Jack Steele found his way past too. So let's see how they go through Rio for the first time. Everyone will be a little bit cautious, but it can be a rather nasty Constantina effect through this part of the circuit. Mostly a single file, but a couple of side-by-sides. There's a Ferrari there that's going to be heavily compromised on this first straight. On rear wing now with Spinazzi. He's got the 560 of Kafil Slade right behind him, but he'll go defensive on the inside and looking to get maybe ahead of Kumar. Kumar closes the door on him into turn 8, and now we head towards my least favorite corner here, turn 10. It's an absolutely probably the most difficult corner out there. Will there be a move to the inside? There's a good opportunity for it. Does compromise you on the straight. Everyone has gone single file through there. That is the smart thing to do, because now you're going to be in the slipstream. Now you can start to take advantage of that. Good start there from everyone. No yellow flags and split yellow. My hats are off.
Yeah, that was a great start by everyone there. Made it through the first complex and through Curva del Rio without much incident, which is really good to see. A lot of respect being shown by all the drivers, and they've sort of sorted themselves out now.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Mags there off the start. Obviously lost the lead of the race into the first corner. I know the Ferrari isn't incredible on race starts and can easily be pipped by some of the other cars, but that seemed like there was some issue there, like bad reaction time or potentially didn't see the green light. I know that's a bug that's caught some of the drivers out in recent memory, so a bit unfortunate for him there, and he's already dropped 1.2 seconds back, so potentially he's even running a higher fuel tank and he is going to go long, as Brent was saying, for this first stint. So we'll monitor that, but yeah, interesting to see him drop back so much so quickly.
Yeah, that's right. It was definitely not his start. Hobbs was just off the line so quickly. I mean, my hats off. We've got a couple of yellow flags. Kafil Slade has had a major issue. He is stopped on the exit of turn 6, just on that straight in the kink near turn 7. So unfortunately for Kafil Slade, he has gone right to the back of the field alongside Bernal and Starkey, the 99 and 60 cars who came together earlier in the lap. Just as I had said, there are no yellow flags so far. We actually indeed got one. So maybe a little bit of a delayed commentator's curse there. We'll have the have the audience determine my guilt on that one. But yeah, Hobbsy just off the line so quickly. I think you're probably right. It's a big fuel difference going on, different strategies being executed at the start of this race. And it does seem to be the sensible thing to run a little bit longer at the start. We know that Jacob Mags is going to have the pace to really stay right up there at the top. So he'll be able to keep a sort of a bit of a leash on Hobbs and hopefully keep the likes of Bubnow and Steele behind him for a little bit of time while he sort of manages the beginning of his strategy. But Hobbs, I mean, hats off to him. He absolutely flew off the line there.
I'm just looking at YouTube chat here, and it sounds like Kafil Slade, his wheel fell off the desk. So I think some dicky clamps there, or they just yeah, you know how you pull on the wheel and just over time you slowly pull the clamps off. I think everybody's had a Logitech at some point in their sim racing career. So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. That'd be a bit of a shock. When you come around the corner and oh, hang on, I'm holding the wheel and it's just like spinning around by itself. So yeah, that'd be I think he'll look back on that and giggle a little bit, but in the moment, I think he's a bit frustrated.
Yeah, it did look like it happened on the straight. No one else was affected in the accident, so it looks like it was just him, just on the exit of turn 6, or just out of Rio. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. I've had that happen to me multiple times, and all I can say is get out the super glue.
Yep.
It's the only solution. That, or, well, there's other solutions to that. You don't have to necessarily bolt your wheel to your desk, but that is definitely a potential. Zeri in front of Malili at the moment. A bit of a battle going on here for P16. We're on the rear wing of the BMW right now, and oh, that's nearly a sideways moment there for Malili, but does get the car collected. Was nearly a send up the inside, but that door was inevitably going to close. Rides the curbs nicely in the Ferrari and in towards the last corner we go. Got a couple of people into the pit stop. The likes of Nick Jones now coming in the number 88 car. We'll go for an early pit stop. So there we go. There is that early pit stop happening on track. We've had another yellow flag. It's Hayden Marsh for Taco Sport in the 27 Ferrari, and he looks like he was sideways, maybe riding the curb too much at the last corner. That curb on the inside can be absolutely deadly.
Oh. Or goes for an opportunistic move on the... It almost looked like a Maserati. I think maybe it was a GTR. There. And just, yeah, the door was shut on him. So that's a little unfortunate. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's lost too much time. So he'll be back in the fight as soon as you like, I reckon.
Yeah, agreed. It's a really tricky one because there are so few opportunities to overtake that aren't backing off a large straight. And even the main straight, the main back straight, which has the kink in it, well, you're going through such high speed, you know, your only opportunity is a big send up the inside, which is just never really on. We're on board with Jack Steele right now because he is very close to the rear ring of Bub now. And we'll see. We've got a question in the chat whether he was alongside. Well, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't quite catch it on the replay myself. Did you guys see that? Was he fully alongside? Was he not?
It's one for the stewards' room, is what I'm going to say. I have my opinion, but it's one for the stewards. I believe, yeah. I'll leave it to them. I trust their decision, and we'll see how that plays out for the two involved.
You avoided the trap I laid. Well done. We've also got Robert Maddox on the back of Daniel Webb, so a close battle for P6 and for P3, which is we're on board with right now. This is the battle for the top 3 positions. And yeah, Bub now under a lot of pressure now from the Aston Martin. Aston Martin, let's talk Aston Martin. It's, when tuned correctly, can be an absolute monster. Looks like Steele has got that thing really nailed in terms of its setup.
Yeah, so far so good. I know the Aston is incredible in a straight line, so I wouldn't be surprised. He'll be ready to pounce. If Bub now ahead gets a poor run out of this corner coming up here, turn 10 onto the back straight, he'll definitely be looking for a bit of some alongside action, I reckon, if he gets close enough, or if Bub now gets a bad exit. But the McLaren is so quick off the corners, it's insane. So yeah, but he does look a bit wily coming into the fast right-hander here. I have noticed, yeah, a bit of counter steer. I think that's more preventative than reactionary. But yeah, other than that, looks fairly dialed in, and yeah, he's putting the pressure on Bub now ahead. Bub now can't really make a mistake here, otherwise Justin Steele is ready to pounce. Jack Steele, sorry.
And that was a penalty there for the 27 car, Hayden Marsh, getting a 15-second penalty on track for that move on Mike Crick earlier on. Fastest lap goes to Jacob Magg, so even though he had a not great start, which we're going to look at again now on the replay, let's just see what happens here. There was a little bit of a concertina on Magg's side of the circuit. Don't think that's going to affect it at all. And oh, and looks like he just really didn't put the accelerator on at all. Hobbs was away on the accelerator long before Mags was really on it, and sort of Mags doing that sort of concertinaed the rest of the field on his side of the grid. That was a bizarre one, actually.
Yeah, just got caught napping a little bit there, unfortunately.
Well, it does happen, unfortunately. So we'll see. But you know, as we said before, I mean, Mags has not let Mitch Hobbs get away. He's only 1.7 seconds behind them at the moment, and holding the fastest lap. That was a lap that was 0.4 faster a 33.090. So he's actually done a lap there that no one else had equaled in qualifying, and threatening to go back into the 32 pace. So I think we could possibly rule out that he's on a really high fuel strategy. I think that start just sort of mixed him up a little bit. Kafil Slade here on your screens, P20 at the moment, so he's starting his fight back already. I think he dropped the P25, so must have got the super glue out and got that sorted, because he is back on track and now fighting to get past Bishop. Will there be a move here? I mean, it's a nice place to threaten the move, but and it's worked.
And
It's worked really nicely. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the psychological pressure of no, you don't you dare. Oh, he's going to do it. Oh, no, he's not.
No, the McLaren's going to have a reply here. Or this could get messy. No, very well done. But he's fully ahead into the last corner. He gets the move done. That's some pretty good mind games there from Kafil Slade to get past Bishop. And up into the, well, he was in the top 20, but even further into the top 20 now, P19.
Oh, we're just double checking. I think we've just had the server make a little bit of a blip momentarily. No one seems to have been affected, probably mostly on my side, so I do apologize for that. We've got a couple of little technical things going on as well. Pay no attention is all I'll say. Number 90 car gets a 10-second penalty. That's Sweeney in the Mercedes. I think it's the only Mercedes. No, there's two Mercedes on track, so Sweeney is one of them, currently in P13. Not quite sure what that incident was for. We might be able to get that on a replay at some point, but nonetheless, a 10-second penalty being doled out. 10 minutes or 11 minutes in, no drive-throughs yet. That's probably a win for most of the drivers out there. What do we say of that?
Oh, last time I was at Misano, I had 3 track cuts by about this point in the race, so doing better than I was. That penalty for Sweeney was for jumping the start, I believe I saw. And we've also got Collins, number 5, a 10-second penalty for being out of position. And another fastest lap for J-Mag, so 32.9. So definitely going for the hot lap strategy. Obviously the temperatures are going to play into these guys' hands. You go a lot quicker in these sort of temperatures than your 21, 29 during the daytime. But it's a mega pace from Mags. He's definitely going to be closing that gap to Hobbs. I'll give it 5 more laps and we might be seeing the battle here for the lead.
Yeah, Brent, you must have seen your fair share of drive-throughs here as well.
Yes, after the 12 hours of Misano, it can be a bit frustrating. I usually find they come in batches. You know, you'll be driving along for a while and have no warnings, and then all of a sudden in 1 or 2 laps you've got 3, and you're being very cautious, trying not to get a 4th. So we'll have to see if we start getting some now that 10 to 12 minutes into the race is enough time to sort of do 7-8 laps and get a couple of them on the board.
Absolutely right. We've just seen Stockton go and cause a yellow flag at Rio. I'm not quite sure what's happened there either, but he's just getting started again. Oh, nearly causes another incident. Got to give hats off to this man for his OOR Penrite Fire and Ice Racing livery. That is top dollar stuff right there. Looking like an absolute legend out on track. Unfortunately for him, he has dropped quite a number of positions due to that and now finds himself in P20. In fact, that might even be slightly further down here, P24. He ended up sideways across turn 5, so really not sure what's happened there. Mike Crick now in a battle once again with Hayden Marsh. This is a bit of a deja vu scenario here. Let's just hope that the battle this time will work out well for both of them on board with Hayden Marsh. Let's watch the Taco Sport driver in the Ferrari go into turn 14. It's Caro. Lovely corner that. If you get it right, there's nothing more satisfying in this track, I think, personally. Does lift off a little bit, slight break into turn 15. And this was the trouble corner last time. No chance to get side by side with the GTR this time, but a really good exit for Hayden Marsh there. Might be an opportunity down to turn 1, but that GTR's got a lot of legs on it.
Yeah, it just fills the mirrors instead. Realises he's probably not going to get alongside. I think he might have either those rear tyres up a bit. It seems to be counter-steering just a touch. A bit uncharacteristic for the Ferrari. But he's all over the back of this GTR. Looks for the move here. He's going to push the GTR away. He's just going to bully him off the apex, and he gets the move done into Rio.
Yes, indeed. It just says, I'm here, and you can turn in if you want. But Mike Crick says, you know what, I don't want any part of that. I am going to get out of this and just let this Ferrari driver on through. I do believe Hayden Marsh has got some really good pace here in the Ferrari. Was one of those who didn't set a qualifying lap, I believe. So he might not have been able to. Maybe had to do something else during qualifying, but nonetheless, he's making his way up through the grid. Oh, that's nearly a moment there for Walsh. Oh, had to really back out of that. BMW just came to a bit of a halt in front of him, really.
Yeah, that's just shows you the Ferrari is incredibly good and can brake fairly deep on the brakes. Not too sure how the BMW is. I know it's obviously very strong here, but brake-wise, I think it's about middle of the field with that sort of thing. But yeah, he does well. He does well to avoid that. You could see he just turned out of it immediately as soon as he knew he didn't think he was going to pull it up. He turned out, which is some really good racecraft. A lot of people would have caused an incident there, to be fair. So well done to him, and I'm also glad that we're back on Alex Walsh because I'm a big fan of his livery. It is one of it's my favourite in the field thus far. Penwright's pretty close, but yeah. So go back up to the fight for the podium position, P3 here between Steele and Bob. Now these guys have been going at it for the past 5 or so laps, well really since the race start, but especially so in the last 5 or so laps. And Steele just looking for a way past. I reckon he's got the pace here on Bub now, but just can't find a way past.
And just so everyone knows, I think Alex Walsh's livery is Cadbury Racing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, either Cadbury or Favourites. I can't remember exactly. I think it might be Cadbury.
Well, that is a mouth-watering livery, if I may say so myself.
Yes, he's made me crave some crunchies, some boost bars at this point in time. So yeah, hopefully he's not
cruel.
Yeah, I was going to say I hope he's not on camera too much more tonight, but he's doing pretty well at this point in time. So hope to see him pull off some moves and move his way up the field.
I can just hear Mull in the background, licking his lips, rubbing his hands together, going, "Oh yeah, I'm going to make these commentators suffer today." Oh, that's nearly a close one there for the Aston Martin. Really good awareness there by Steele, and there's a yes from Mull. Yeah, we are going to get tortured, guys. That's just how it is now, unfortunately. That was a really close one there, but manages to pull up the car just in time. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the McLaren does tend to need to brake a little bit more into these corners and then uses that area at the front to really turn in and then launches out of the corner. Whereas the Aston Martin certainly seems to be catching up mostly on the entry into the corners, which definitely seems to be the advantage. Aston Martin into most of the corners at the moment, but yeah, close one there. It's just a bit of a push me pull you situation, isn't it? Every little bit that Steele gains, then suddenly Bub now is gaining in another area, and they seem to be sort of at a neutral zero by the end of the lap.
Yeah, that's right. You can see them get close together every couple of corners, and here we go right now, right on his bumper. And then yeah, just the McLaren's able to carry a little bit more corner speed and get a bit of a better exit, and just nullifying that advantage that the Aston seems to have.
Yeah, it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse here. The Aston not awfully great on that initial acceleration, so I reckon we'll see this battle continue for a while longer.
Well, and we will see it continue into the nighttime. It is now 9:22 p.m. The track temperature is stabilized at 14 degrees Celsius, ambient and on track, so at least the conditions are reasonably consistent out there at the moment. No cloud in sight, so that does mean that the temperature should be pretty stable for the remainder of the race, fingers crossed. But there is 42 minutes left on the clock at the moment, and that means we're a couple of minutes away from the 1/3 strategy, the 20-20-20 strategy, so to speak. We've got a couple in the pits already, number 17, and that's Kumar, and then also Collins, both of them coming into the pits for their first pit stop. We've had, I believe, one person out there who's already completed both their mandatory stops. That's Nick Jones. Yes, he's in last place, but he doesn't have to do a pit again, so he's going to run for a long 41-minute strategy here at the end. We've got a number of other cars who've done one pit stop as well. Robert Maddox, who was right at the top of this battle as well in the top 6, I believe. He has done a pit stop and is probably looking to get a bit of clean air at the moment with the MDX Hornet livery. I really like anything that's got yellow and black on it. I absolutely like a little bit of red in there. Beautiful Hornet on the side. Love to see it. But he has opted for a little bit of an earlier pit stop than the rest of the top 10. And this could mean that if he gets that clean air, gets a few good laps in, he could jump up a couple of positions. Absolutely.
With a couple of pairs of drivers battling each other, it might be going for the undercut, pitting and a lap or two early. maybe a bit of an advantage. Get those fresh tyres, get some clean air, and hopefully by the time the driver in front of you pits, they're behind you.
That's right. It's always a bit of a risk, though, isn't it? Because if you do encounter traffic, then suddenly you're in trouble because you are going to be fighting for position because you have done a pit stop. So you don't have the advantage of getting those blue flags and having drivers move out of your way, unfortunately. So it can be a bit of a risk. You've got to time it well, and that's at least for me. That's why I usually aim. If I'm going to do an early pit stop, I usually do it very early because then you're almost guaranteed to have quite a lot of clean air out there on that lap. But you know, it is what it is, and we'll see if that works out for Maddox. Mags at the moment still continuing to chase Mitch Hobbs. He's found a good bit of a gap though back to Bub now. A little bit of blue flag traffic in between them because Bub now and Still have been fighting. So a 3-second gap for Mags to handle back to Sean Bub now in the 165 McLaren. But Mitch Hobbs only 1.2 seconds up the road. So it's really all to play for. I think this is going to potentially come down to a bit of strategy. Neither of these drivers, Hobbs or Mags, known for making silly mistakes out on track. So if they get their strategy right, this could be an advantage. Oh, Mitch Hobbs pushing the BMW to its absolute limit, and there is our P2 man, Jacob Mags, coming into the pit. So he has pulled the trigger early. This will trigger a response, I suspect, from Mitch Hobbs as well, unless he's got something different in mind in terms of his strategy.
Yeah, possibly. So as we see, Mags coming in for that estimated 20-20-20 strategy. So obviously 2 mandatory pit stops and mandatory tyre changes for both as well. So to utilise the tyres the most, it would make sense to do 3x20 stints, 20-minute stints, hot stints. Just put in 35-ish litres, 40 litres, and just go to your heart's extent. Jump in, new rubber on all 4 corners, and you go out for another 7-ish push laps, and then jump in again. So not 7. I can't maths. More like 12, 13 laps. But yeah, also in the YouTube chat we have a poll. Question of the week: Crocs, yes or no, fellas?
It's a no from me.
When I was younger, maybe they were all the rage when they first came out. But no, my brother loves his Crocs. Has many pairs, but it's not really for me.
Fair enough. I'd
And
say,
you, Bruno?
Oh, it's a tough one. I'm not going to say, I do love my sneakers. I wouldn't wear them instead of my sneakers. But if you're, just, you need to take your shoes off every now and then, just easy access. It's a yes from race control, as we see on screen here. But yes. I think you guys are in the majority. I think it's about 60% to no at this point in time. Yes, 64% no, 36% yes. But I'd say just for if you need to take them off now and then, like a garbage truck has to stop every now and then. I think stop very frequently. I think Crocs definitely up there with your slides and whatnot. But for genuine footwear, nah, it's a no from me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead out in public with a set of Crocs on. I think there's some memes around that with people wearing them with the rear thing, rear sort of hold on the ankle forward, to treat them as more comfort sort of feet. And then when someone runs off in front of you and you need to catch them up, you just flick them back and suddenly you're Usain Bolt. And I think there's a meme about that. I feel like we're missing an option on here.
Support mode, yeah.
Yeah, support mode. Exactly, yeah. I feel like we're missing an option here, which is sometimes, which might have got quite a few votes potentially, but it seems like a solid no from most. So
not sure if you guys caught that, but it looks like Tony Spencer is getting the meatball flag. I reckon that's for not having his headlights on. So hopefully he's able to figure that out, because it will be 3 laps of that before he gets a black flag and gets DQ'd from this session. So hopefully he's able to catch on.
Yeah, that can be a problem. I mean, I think a lot of us do like to have a lot of things configured on our controllers, on our wheels. For me, I always go with the automatic light settings because I wouldn't put 2 and 2 together in time. But hopefully Spencer's able to put 2 and 2 together shortly. And I mean, rapidly it's almost a bit of a shame he's around cars, because if he wasn't, he'd realize that he can't see anything.
Yeah. It's one of those tracks that you definitely, I think it's just, being twilight, I think you could probably excuse his ignorance there a little bit. And it's still light enough that you probably wouldn't tell if they're off or on. until you turn them on and you realize, oh, I had them off. But yeah, I have used auto lights for a while in the past. Now that I've got enough buttons on my wheel that I can actually reach, I have mapped them just so I can muck around with them. And I can use the different stages. As we see a move here down the inside from Kafil. Ferrari tries going around the outside, but he just bumps him wide, gets the elbows out, and he gets the position up into P15, I think.
Yeah, these two have been fighting for a little while. I think they were briefly interrupted by blue flags coming through from P1, but yeah, they're back at it, and Kafil's made the pass, which is great to see.
So I guess that's the other question, Brent. Do you have enough buttons on your wheel to do the lights manually, or you in the auto camp like me?
I have enough buttons, but I figure that a car that's worth a couple of $100,000 is probably smart enough to have its own automatic headlights. So I turn those on, and then I just don't have to worry. Same with windscreen wipers.
Yep. Couldn't agree more with that. For immersion's sake, I might, but here we go. We've got Jacob Maggs. Sorry, that's not Jacob Maggs. That's Jack Steele into the pits now. So he's going to give up that assault temporarily on Sean Bubnow and go and get himself a fresh set of tyres at the 34-minute mark. So that'll be potentially two 17-minute stints there. Here is Sean Bubnow, and he is going to be the remaining one to pit out of the top 4. I believe mostly everyone else has gone for pits. We've got Buscovus as well behind him, now currently up in the provisional P2 of the race, followed by Matthew Spinazzi and then Alex Walsh. So please no camera shots of that Cadbury car. I can't deal with that right now. Mitch Hobbs, though, out of the pits. He's completed his pit stop, and he will continue his charge through the field, as I feel like we are also continuing our charge towards a Cadbury-style livery. Nonetheless, Bubnow will provisionally lead the race. He has to come in for his pit stop at some point with the trigger being pulled by the Aston behind him. I suspect that'll be a trigger for him to go. And it looks like Hobbs also had that same reaction to having Jacob Maggs pit behind him.
Yeah, interesting to see, assuming those gaps are near enough correct, he's actually come out over a second more ahead than he was before, so Mags has actually lost out by pitting earlier there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Is that surely that can't be a refueling differential there? I mean, it could be, but I would say probably unlikely unless there is a big difference. But you're right, it's now 2.5 seconds, was at 1.2 seconds when they came in for the pit stops.
Yeah, well, I mean, oh yeah, go ahead, Brett.
I was just going to say, given that that's a short track, we're running 1 minute 30 seconds, it takes a little bit longer for the tyres to warm up. So I'm wondering if maybe pitting early with the lower temperatures has just taken the drivers who are pitting earlier longer to sort of fire them up and sort of nullifying that advantage that you might get from an earlier pit stop.
There it is.
There we go. We can see the livery now.
I've closed my eyes. You guys take over.
We'll let you know when it's gone.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, the fuel differential shouldn't matter because they're changing tires, which would immediately make the stop 30 seconds regardless, and you can put an entire tank in less than 30 seconds. So interesting there. So yeah, it might come into what you were saying, Brent. The tires are just taking a little longer to warm up, and obviously Mags did pit a couple laps earlier, so he might have had a bit more traffic potentially than Hobbs did, with people pitting, like the people between them pitting between their pit stops. So yeah, Mags might have lost a bit of time, just trying to push his way back through the field.
Well, that's it, isn't it? We were talking about that as well. When you pit in these circumstances, you're going to have a lot around you with that first pit stop maybe not having been done. And it was a bit of an early pull on the trigger there from Jacob Maggs. So maybe he just, got caught up in a little bit of traffic. Has managed to reduce that gap already, though. That's now down to 2 seconds. So he's found half a second already. That last lap was a 1:33.007. There's a nice number for everyone in chat. A 007 on the board, so he's nearly back in the 32 club already. Fresh tyres and the track conditions being pretty much exactly what he went in from the pits from as well. Means he can just get back out there and really start setting some laps. Sean Bubnow now in the pit lane, and we will continue to watch Spence at the moment. Yeah, it's getting rather dark at the front of that car. See that he's got the yellow light there on his dash telling him the orange. Here we go. The orange flag being waved to him, black and orange, and also the orange light on his dashboard. So unfortunately, just still hasn't put 2 and 2 together. And I mean, is he 1 lap away now from a DQ if he doesn't get those lights on?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Speaking of a 33007, you could almost call Mags a golden gun at this point in time.
Right, yeah. It's I'm sure we can think up some pretty good 007 references here for that, but don't believe that's yeah, that is actually the fastest lap of the race. So it's a 1:33.007. So actually, you know what? Can someone tell Jacob Maggs just to slow down from here on out? We want to keep that. Oh, and he's gone and done a 1:32.952. Jacob Maggs returns to the 32 club as the number 420 Spence just try and move on the number 5 Aston Martin. He's going to get the run out here as well as the Aston Martin gets a little bit squiggly on the exit, and ahead will go the Lamborghini, who may soon be disqualified in this race for not turning his lights on. Oof, that's a rough way to go.
Yeah, 100%. I'm hoping now that he's got to the front of this train, he realizes, oh, it's awfully dark right now, and he whacks those lights on because he's got no more than 2 corners, I reckon, before he gets a game teleport back to the pits, and race finished, unfortunately for him.
He's going past
dear.
entry. We'll just have to see what happens to his car as he crosses the finish line.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Oh, he gets one more chance, it looks like.
Yeah.
He's been out there for a while now. I would have thought that. So maybe it's not 3 laps. Maybe someone in chat can confirm how long you can ignore a black and orange flag for before you get penalised. But that is a long time out there with that, so he will be getting some warnings, I'm sure. Maybe it's just a warning on his client initially after 3 laps, and then maybe it's another 3 laps after that, potentially.
It could also possibly be a server bug. I have seen that, especially with the Nordschleife, like people who are on valid laps, it says invalid and it says like 33-minute lap time or whatnot. So it could also be a server-side glitch or whatnot, so he does actually have his lights on. We just can't see them for some odd reason, which would explain why he's been able to go so long without being disqualified. You see Jack Steele again all over the back of Bub now here. Man, he's pushes him wide. He's going to get the he's going to get the move done into Rio. Bub now's going to try and hold around the outside. You can do it, but nah, man, like Steele just too good to there. And Bub now is actually going to get immediately under attack by the 2 Ferraris behind. So that's not really going too well for him.
Not at all. Looks like he expected the Aston Martin to still be up his inside on turn 6. Oh, a bit of contact there. There was a car there, unfortunately, for Bub now. He's looking all sorts of sideways. I wonder if he cooked his tyres a little bit, or if there's some other issue going on with his car, because he's just lost 2 positions consecutively. And yeah, as I was saying, on the exit of turn 6, he was probably expecting the Aston Martin to still be right next to him, but ended up very, very offline and with no power being put down through that corner, and that's what opened him up to the 2 Ferraris. And yeah, there was a send up the inside from, I believe that's Webb, and may just not have seen that the car was, he definitely had right to the corner, did Daniel Webb, so fair play there, and he'll continue his battle with Kumar, with now Bub now in tow.
Yeah, these two have been at each other for a little while, within sort of a second. So I think Harsh is trying to get past Webb, and now we've got Bub now in the mix. We might have a little 3-way battle going on for P5.
Love to see it, but what you don't love to see is a drive-through. We've got our first of the evening. The number 16, Matthew Starkey, has picked up a drive-through penalty for track limits. It's the first one we've seen. 33 minutes without any drive-throughs. Actually, honestly, I've got to take my hats off for that. That's an impressive effort. 27 minutes now on the clock, but the track temperature has reduced by another degrees Celsius. We're down to 13 degrees Celsius track conditions, which is just going to increase the tricky nature of what we're seeing here. By the time the race finishes, it will be just past the 10 p.m. barrier, and I think most of us do recall that once you get to 10 p.m., things do start to change rather rapidly on the server. We'll see if that will be the case today. But yeah, as you said, 3-way battle will now continue, assuming Bub now doesn't have some sort of issue that he's dealing with. Have also seen a yellow flag out there for the 97 car. It's Paul Cranach. He is not having a particularly good time there on the exit of turn 10 on the straight in that Red Bull livery. We saw that earlier on from our broadcaster, and we will see it once again right now. It is a nice looking livery on that McLaren. I have to give him props, but he's just had a bit of an issue down the back of the field, and that has caused him to drop down a couple more positions. Starkey now in the pits, and Bernal now in the pits as well, coming in for their final pit stops. Everyone else in the field still got one to do, and I expect, or we'll crowdsource this, but probably going to see some more in the next 6 minutes, maybe 6 to 11 minutes. I'm not sure if we'll see anyone do a really, really short stint towards the end. It could work, but you're better to take advantage of, I think at least, you're better to take advantage of the potentially slightly warmer conditions now and get those fast laps in now.
Yeah, it also depends on the brake ducts that these guys are running. I assume most would be on 2.2, but the guys that are running 3.3 or 3.2 the front and rear would probably want to push this stint as long as they can, just like whack on those fresh tyres just for a lap or two, because I don't think they're going to have time to get them up to temperature if they're on those the higher, the more open brake ducts. But you see a nice four-way battle here for what looks like P15 at the moment. Hayden Marsh, not sure if you guys caught that, but I reckon he might have just given himself a track cut coming out of Rio onto the miniature back straight before the hairpin. And I run very, very wide coming out of that corner. It's one of those ones, you know, like you know you can go flat through it if you throw it in enough, but oh, he's just going to fall off the back of the Aston here. Just misjudged his turning point there.
Luckily, I haven't seen anyone get track limits on that part. You have to cut that corner quite significantly to get a track cut where we saw Hayden running a little bit deep. He did also counter steer out of it, so I think he knew that he was going in too deep. But this is it. It gets tricky at Misano because your braking zones start to look a little bit dimmer in the light, as Spence does run pretty deep into that. The Aston will go around the outside. Hayden Marsh now looking for a move on the outside of the Aston Martin. Will there be a chance here? Potentially. He'll be able to go wide and break deep into the corner, but the inside line with the Aston, so no real chance there. It was definitely on for a move, but if you don't have the inside line, well, there's nothing you can really do. But does have a good run here, doesn't he?
Yes.
He does too.
Because the Aston got a little bit squirrely out of the corner there, so I think it's given the opportunity for the Ferrari to get alongside. And they're going side by side through this very fast section.
Oh, no!
They've made contact.
Oh, that's tough.
Oh dear. So that was Collins in the number 5 Aston Martin, and he just got loose on the inside line there. And I mean, he was a passenger once he had lost control of the car and went straight into the front passenger door of the Ferrari of Hayden Marsh, and that's really unlucky for Hayden there.
Oh, he turned his lights on.
Oh, so he did. Or the server
and he came into
finally
the pit, so
caught up.
Maybe in the server.
But
Yes,
yeah, perhaps.
Well, that looks a lot better.
They're
Let's put it that way.
definitely on, yep.
Definitely looking a lot better. Drive-through penalty for Walsh. So the 113 Ferrari, Cadbury, will be in the pits for a drive-through. It's the second of the evening we've seen so far, and I feel like we may have a flurry of activity with drive-throughs soon. Excuse my puns.
Yeah, that not Aiden Walsh, I'm not sure. I think it's Alex Walsh, I believe.
Alex Walsh, yep.
Yes, was running P3 in silver class as well, so that's not only going to push him out of the top 10, I reckon that's going to push him out of the podium positions in silver class as well.
So, I think it's about a 30-second stop, and there seemed to be a bit of a gap to P10 behind him, so hopefully it's not too far down the order. But given the short length of the lap, that 30 seconds is pretty punishing. It's about 30%, I think, of your time. So yeah, something you want to avoid if possible.
Big move here down the inside is the Aston Martin on the McLaren, and McLaren gets all sorts of sideways advantage to them. And oh wow, they'll still be side by side. This is going to be great into turn 9, turn 10. Oh no! No, it wasn't going to be great, unfortunately. It's not turned out well for the McLaren driver there. But they went pretty deep, and suddenly the car was sideways. I mean, that's a tricky one to call, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a very tricky corner, as you mentioned earlier, George. You've got a braking into the corner where you can't really brake straight because it's got the kink beforehand, and it's very easy to sort of run a little bit deep and wide, and just a little bit of contact into the door of the other car.
Exactly right, and I think we're about overdue for a little update through our categories No, Mull. Oh, no. Okay. Right. Well, I'm triggered now. Guess what I'll be buying tomorrow from the dairy? Well, it'll be basically exactly what you've just seen on screen, I suspect.
Tomorrow,
Um,
mate, if you see me disappear for 10 minutes, you know where I went.
yeah, too right. Yeah, excuse me, guys. Commentary's over. I'll be back for the last 10 minutes of the race. See you later. Absolutely. We do see a 10-second penalty there. That was for Ben Collins, I believe. So that was the incident with Hayden Marsh. We'll pick up a fairly hefty penalty as Alex Walsh comes in to serve his drive-through penalty. And I think you're right. I don't think he's going to necessarily lose P10 to that, but there is a battle going on for P10 between Jeremy Zeri. Yes, he will. In fact, Kafil Slade and Jeremy Zeri go up ahead of him. That puts Alex Walsh into P12 now because, P13. Yeah, so he's lost a bunch of positions. 4 positions lost from that, unfortunately. And we're going to take another look at the replay here. What do we think, guys? Oof. Well,
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Like it's that kind of corner. You know, you've got to have full faith in the guy next to you to get through that cleanly and safely.
And just being offline a little bit through those high speed sections can be enough to send the car off. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I've done that on my own a number of times while learning the track. So it is an easy thing to do. I think we can excuse him making that mistake.
Yeah, it looks like he's just held the brakes just a touch too long, and just unsettled the car because it looked like the rear just like locked up a little bit, and then it just counter steer. And at that speeds, counter steer is pretty difficult to catch.
Mm.
Yep, indeed. And on board now with the battle. So Kafil Slade currently in P10, trying to get himself up into P9. It's been a good drive back from Slade. I think that super glue is holding very, very nicely now, or whatever he's done to his wheel base to keep it attached to his desk does appear to no longer be suffering from those issues. He just needs to make sure he doesn't have any hectic overtakes to yank the wheel back off. But I think it's a good time to maybe look around our grid and look at the categories, as I said before. We'll keep on board with this battle, I think, for now, so we can keep watching it, but I'll just read out where people are at. In terms of our categories, so leading us at the moment still is Mitch Hobbs for the Pro category. And then we have P5, Daniel Webb. So he's actually above all the other silver category drivers. For Pro-Am, currently leading Pro-Am class, Daniel Webb, the number 111 Ferrari P5 overall. That's good job to him so far. Behind them is P1 silver class, that's Sean Bubb now in the 165 McLaren. And then for our M class, it is Paul Kranick, the 97 McLaren, currently in P18. So pretty good results so far from Pro-Am and Silver, and I'd say probably for Am as well, respectively. So not too bad around the grid. Definitely got a battle on our hands for Silver win at the moment. Whether Daniel Webb and Buscovas will be in close proximity towards the end of the race for a Pro-Am battle for the lead there will be up for debate, I suspect. But Daniel Webb, hats off to this man right here, because he's up in P5 with the Pro-Am badge and leading the way for his category. Maybe a little upgrade to silver for him, maybe potentially at the end of the season.
That's right. If he can keep up this sort of pace, then I think a little promotion might be in order. He's definitely had some very good pace this evening, and I believe last week as well at Brands Hatches too. So, yeah, leading this little battle pack of, 4 cars? 3-4 cars?
Yeah.
All within a couple of tenths or under a second of each other. It's great to see.
Oh, Jack Steele, 10-second penalty for causing a collision on lap 24. Now, one of you might recall what exactly that was for.
Yes, that was the move up the inside, I believe, with Maddox for P3 up into turn 10 here, as we see Webb round through that corner. So yeah, the steward's room has spoken. That's going to push Steele down a little while, actually. I think he might be even down into P8, looking at those gaps update at this point in time. 6.4, 7.1, yeah. It's potentially down into... What's happened there? He's just disappeared. As we see, Josh
Yes,
Bernal
he has.
So, yeah, okay. Well, either he's got a very coincidentally timed mechanical failure or internet disconnect or whatnot, or he's thrown in the towel there. So that's a bit disappointing. Still was on for a decent result, I reckon. With still a pit stop to go, but Yeah, that's
Absolutely, yeah, that was bizarre. I did see the timing sheets just light up green, so it looks like it would have been a disconnect from what I can see. Um, so that, yeah, that is a real shame to see him off the server. Hopefully that's not as a result of penalties that have been applied to him. We're on board with Maddox at the moment. Kafil Slade, though, unfortunately have to report another who's gotten himself 4 track warnings. So a drive-through, Kafil Slade will have served that now. He's currently in P10,
It
but
looks like he's got
running.
issues.
Yeah, he's running really slow, isn't he? Has his wheel come off again?
possibly, or is he stuck in 6th gear? It does look, he's got the hazards on. What's happening here? I think he might have had another mechanical failure.
So nice and courteous that he's thrown the old hazards on. I like that
Yeah.
from Kafil there.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously
I
his
have a lot
hazard
of-
light button is working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he had the pit limiter stuck on though. He's got going again now, so that's a bit odd, but poor bloke has been just absolutely, yeah, he's been thrown, he's drawn the short straw here, sorry, with the old technology.
Certainly has. He'll
Yeah.
come into the pits and, yeah, maybe try and rectify the issue that he's experiencing. It's definitely been a bizarre one and not the nicest night of mechanical issues for this man right here. But, I mean, he had a good charge back through the field, though, you've got to admit. Had some great pace out there, so real shame if hardware issues are keeping him from racing at his full potential.
I'm wondering maybe if it could have been a fuel issue. Like if he was running low on fuel, he had to run a drive-through so he couldn't pit, and he's just chucked it in 6th because that's something the Ferrari can do, is just cruise along in 6th gear without losing too much speed.
I think you've
Maybe it's
nailed,
something like
yeah.
that.
I reckon you've hit the nail on the head. That sounds, yeah, I reckon he's got the drive through with like a lap or 2 fuel remaining and has had to come in and serve that instead of pitting. I believe you can turn off the serve penalty and you can serve it the lap later, but maybe he just forgot to do that or didn't realize that was an option. But yeah, I think you've nailed that, Brent. I reckon that was the case.
Yeah, that is Sherlock Holmes level deduction right there, because yeah, that seems to be exactly what's happened. And that's so unlucky as well, getting a drive-through on the lap that you need to come into the pits to stop for fuel. Kafil Slade is coming out of the pits again, still got his hazards on, but I'll keep an eye on him, see if he does get going again. Daniel Webb has been given a 10-second penalty for causing a collision, and that might have been involving Maddox as well. I'm not 100% sure, but that's going to cost him a bit. He's come into the pits already, so he'll have to come in again and serve that, or obviously just hold that out to the end of the race now that he's completed all his mandatory pit stops. We have also had both Mitch Hobbs and Jacob Maggs come into the pit, so they're going to run a 13 or 14-minute stint at the end of this race. Yeah, that could really affect Daniel Webb's chance of getting a good position at the top of this race. We will keep an eye on that.
Well, yeah, as you said that, he was out clear at the front of Pro-Am there, and it looks like he's lost the position to Harsh Kumar already, like regardless of that 10-second penalty, which I believe will just be applied to total race time. As we see Jack Steele.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. That didn't, I don't know. Like I've seen wheel disconnects and pedal issues like that before, but it seemed a bit more intentional than that. He almost steered out of the corner. But without the full inputs, yeah, we can't really tell. So yeah. Bit unfortunate for Jack Steele regardless.
yeah, exactly right. It's a shame to see. I mean, maybe that sometimes does happen when the server has a glitch. Everyone just goes straight ahead, more or less. But you're right, did seem to be a bit of an input there as well. So I guess we will see. Nonetheless, a shame to see Steele drop out of the race. Now watching Sean Bubb now. He's currently in the provisional lead of the race. Maddox has pitted, done both his mandatories. And no, there we go. Timing sheets. Thank you very much. He's coming out of the pits as Maddox, and he will end up P3 in this race. Hobbs and Maggs go up ahead of him, of course. Buskovas as well is now in the pits. He's leading Pro-Am category if he can get out of the pits before Kumar comes around, which it looks like will be the case. So, no, in fact, thank you, timing screens. Once again, Kumar currently leading Pro-Am class.
Yep, there we go. So I think Kumar, he had the 15-second penalty towards the start of the race, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he just pitted twice fairly quickly, or like had one done before the 20-minute mark, and then had another one done almost before the 40-minute mark. So his mega undercut has seemed to work here. as we got a replay here of the Mad Panda AMG. Oh, just gets a little bit of oversteer, sorry, and just goes sliding. Manages to not take anybody out as he careens back over the track, but does well to hold the brakes there. Doesn't move until everybody's clear. I reckon his rejoin was just as safe, so props to the unfortunate Mercedes driver there.
Yeah, I do love that livery. Mad Panda liveries look absolutely epic. For those of you who haven't seen the real life Mercedes and I think a number of other cars, I think they've run a McLaren as well, Mad Panda Motorsports, but go and check them out. They are absolutely awesome liveries. The moment we're watching Mitch Hobbs, he's come on through from Hayden Marsh, and Hayden Marsh has obviously been blue flagged in that scenario. I think Hayden is running
He's
in
P17.
P17 at the moment. Yeah, that's right. So he's gone from pretty much last place up to P17. It's a good run, I think, for Hayden Marsh. Obviously been involved in his own set of battles today, as has really everyone. I mean, Misano does breed this kind of racing. It's small little mistakes, usually taking out innocent bystanders, and also a combination of maybe sends that weren't on in the first place. It sort of brings to light a lot of that sort of action on track, and that's sort of just the nature of Misano, as we have now 10 minutes remaining in this race.
Yep, yeah. There's a lot of corners here where you have to start turning in very early. So it makes it tough to know if it moves on or not, to some extent, because you could be alongside, but it needs to be alongside at the turning point, and those turning points are a lot earlier than your typical track. As we see 2 cars off here, that looks like a Porsche, unfortunately. So that's McDowell and not sure who that is in the McLaren.
That might be Daniel Webb. No, Daniel Webb's in a Ferrari, sorry.
Or just yeah, that's McLaren versus Porsche breaks there. That's a bit of an unfortunate one for both drivers there. I think the Porsche did as much as he could, but he wasn't pulling it up in time.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, once you're on the inside like that, and then just a little extra tap at the end because, he just was already well deep into the corner. So that was McDowell, and
Bishop, I believe.
yeah, that must be Bishop. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so both of them flying a pro badge for this one. I think that's accurate. I'm not 100% sure if maybe there's an entry list issue going on as well. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I mean the Porsche, once you're that deep, and the McLaren has to brake reasonably early into that corner to get a good rotation, and you come together and you can't avoid it. A stop go 30 for Alex Walsh. That's a disaster.
Yeah, that's the one thing you don't want in any race. A stop and go 30 is incredibly harsh. Unfortunately, that's going to put him almost to the back of the grid, I would imagine. So that's heartbreaking for Walsh, who was running P4 in silver class at this point in time.
And won't be any longer, unfortunately. Yeah, stop go 30. So that must have been speeding in the pit lane, because you don't get that usually handed out unless you've done something absolutely atrocious. Maybe it's the livery. Maybe the race control's just gone. We need to focus some more time on that livery right here. And oh, that was very close there. Yes, our favorite livery on the grid. It seems to be unequivocal at the moment, and we are getting a full load of it at the moment. Yeah, stop go 30 must be for speeding in the pit lane. So really unfortunate there. We're going to do a couple of housekeeping items, or at least one housekeeping item, just as we go in, and that's very, very wide there for Walsh. Housekeeping item is simrigs.com. Well, if you're an Octane Online Racing Patreon, you do get 5% off at simrigs.com. So, there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes from the admins, the staff, the community members and the volunteers. A lot of time being volunteered. Double camera favorites right now. You love to see it. But I do have to pitch that if you are keen to become a Patreon of Octane Online Racing and support the amazing job that the team do in the background to produce series like this, Season 17, of course, of the Sprint Series with Simrigs. We've got Enduro Series. We've just had the conclusion of the Duo Series as well. Many platforms. So if you do enjoy a bit of Octane Online Racing, and you want to support us in what we do here, then please do consider becoming an Octane Online Racing patron. It helps us out massively. So, yeah, and of course you get that discount. Always love to have the discount. Now on board with Kumar versus Maddox, and oh, it was nearly a look up the inside at Rio. Sorry, that's not Rio, that's turn 15. Wasn't on though, but Maddox is really keen to retake that P3 position because Kumar has found himself not just in the lead of Pro-Am class, but also in P3 on the podium.
No, I was going to say, when did that happen? Like, I blink and he's in P3 fighting Maddox here. It looks like he used a speed token there at the final corner. Just runs a bit deep. So this is going to be an interesting battle. Obviously, Maddox, incredibly quick driver, and Harsh Kumar has just absolutely nailed the strategy here. But like, again, I think he had a 15-second penalty at some point in this race. So to be P3 with a 15-second penalty, and only, what is that, 17 seconds, well, 20 seconds behind P2. So without that, he'd only be about 5 seconds behind Mags. That's an incredible effort. That McLaren is not looking too happy on the throttle at this point in time.
Yeah, it's not looking happy anywhere. I mean, Maddox is absolutely driving the wheels off it right now, but it's that sort of concertina effect of lack of grip. The more you push the car, the hotter the tyres get, the less grip you end up having, and McLarens do have a bit of a window with tyres. And yeah, Kumar's looking really stable out front. I think he was in the... It was him and Daniel Webb who'd been sort of slowly creeping up on the top 5 throughout the race. Of course, we've had a couple of disconnects as well from the top order, one disconnect and a couple of incidents. But yeah, Kumar has just found himself, with the oceans being parted around him, finds himself in 3rd place and seeing a very squirrely McLaren in behind, and with 4.5 minutes left on the clock. What, we're looking at somewhere around 3 or 4 laps remaining in this race. So he just needs to hold on at this point. Double yellow being waved though out in front, and yeah, that was a 99 car that was round at the S's.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure who that was or what happened there, but it got cleared up before these guys came through. That's what I was worried about. They were just going to be collected by that yellow flag, just rejoining or whatnot. But looks like it's all cleared up. The 99's got going again. But yeah, it'd be great to see what happened there. But we'll continue on with this battle because I think this is going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, I think it will. And yeah, so I mean, look, predictions for the end. Brent, any thoughts at the moment? I mean, this is going to be a very, very interesting tight battle towards the end here between these two. 3.5 minutes on the clock, not long to go.
Yeah, I think Harsh has got his, actions. Very difficult to keep Maddox behind. Not sure if maybe Maddox has gone off on his tyre pressures or something, causing a little bit of less grip. But I'd say he'll be defending for the next 3 minutes, Harsh, and Maddox will be trying to get that gap past.
Exactly right. That was a really good run there through turn 13 and 14 for Maddox. He's looking like he might have just found the grip again, a little bit more stabilized. And we've got a question in chat whether Kumar is from Ireland. No, he's from India, I believe, and that is an Indian flag on his car. But 2 great liveries battling it out for P3 in this. Mag still hold on to P2 with the fastest lap, but he's 3 seconds down the road from Mitch Hobbs as we head towards the final 2.5 minutes of this 60-minute race for round 2 and season 17 for Split Yellow. Remember, of course, you've got more action coming right up afterwards as we hand over to the Split Green team and for their action commentary as well. Daniel Webb still holding that 10-second penalty as well. So yes, interesting stuff happening in the chat right now. Currently in P1 for silver classes, Bub now. I think he can just relax at the moment because Zeri is in P8 and quite a way off him in terms of time. Maddox looking still a little bit squirrely, not really finding the turn in on the car at the moment. Definitely indicates a grip issue. Maybe he's got a bit of damage on the front of that car. I know that can affect the McLarens quite significantly. Gets a good turn in there, bit of counter steer, but the power does go down. Wide run there for Kumar, so not going to have the best launch out onto the back straight, and the Ferrari might be a little bit vulnerable, but probably still a little bit too far back from Maddox right now.
Yeah, potentially a bit of the dirty air. I know it doesn't affect these cars an awful lot. Oh no! Bit of a snap there. He might still be able to hold this around the outside. He's going to have the inside into the next 2 corners. He does get the drive off the corner. Oh no, he doesn't. I He's a bit too nice there. He gives Maddox way too much space. Dives down the inside there, so holds the position again. Maddox might have a reply here into turn 1. We'll see. But yeah, in the end holds the position. But he gave Maddox behind way too much space into that penultimate corner.
Fair racing it was, though, and crikey, they're right on the back of each other, and yeah, Kumar is going defensive in every corner now. He's expecting a send now from Maddox at any point, but we saw at that last corner, the Ferrari just so good on its brakes, and it was able to hold the position. That's a very shallow line through Rio for Maddox. It's going to give advantage back to Kumar as we head in towards turn 8. Wow, close one, but good racing.
And I didn't even realise that we're on board with Sean Bubb now. Who's just caught up to the back of these two, so watch out. He's ready to pounce here. I thought we're on board with the back marker, to be fair, for a second until I looked up at the timing sheet, but no, this is a three-way battle for P3 in the dying seconds of this race. There will probably be, or it's going to be tight. I reckon there's going to be one more lap after this for these guys to go at it, as Hobbs rounds the final corner now. Yeah, there's going to be about 10 seconds to spare or thereabouts. So these guys are going to have another lap to battle it out, duke it out for the final step of the podium.
That will be music to the ears of Maddox and Bubb now, and it will be a bit of a disappointment for Kumar. He's not got a great run out of turn 14. Might see a send from the McLaren, but it would have to been a huge send because the Ferrari is just so good through that last corner. And again, we go for the final lap. The white flag is being woven now. So this is the final lap of the race. Mitch Hobbs is actually losing a lot of time to J Mags as well. The gap's come down from 3 seconds to 1.8 seconds. Hopefully Mitch Hobbs has done his fuel calculations just right. Maddox getting very squirrely on the exit of turn 3. It's given advantage to Kumar once again. Now we head through into Rio, and Bubb now late on the brakes, nearly goes into the back of the Hornet racing car. This is a good run through Rio for Maddox. He's really giving it everything now. It's his last chance to do so. He'll be in the slipstream down to turn 8. There is a big opportunity for a send up the inside. Kumar is going to go defensive. He has to, because the McLaren's got the run on him and the slipstream. He's going to try the switchback now. Might give him advantage, but it will be the outside line into turn 10, which is never a good place to be.
No.
Oh, nearly a send down the inside from Maddox. He's trying everything in the book, throwing the handbook of racing at him, but Kumar will now be under a massive disadvantage on the back straight. McLaren's not yet in the slipstream because he's already side by side. It'll be outside line, inside line for these two. We've seen this go all sorts of sideways beforehand. I think this is going to be Maddox having it. He'll have the inside line as the fast right-hander. Yes, does so. Kumar runs wide. Badnar goes through as well.
Yeah, that far out. Some action there for the last lap. Last lap. Bubb now just goes through. That's heartbreak for Kumar. Not only does he lose the podium, he loses the position to Bubb now as well. There was a little bit naughty into turn 10 there. He did move under braking, I reckon I saw. But yeah, just got a bit complacent, I reckon. Just forgot to defend in the spots he needed to. But yeah. So Hobbs takes out the win tonight, and the number 4 BMW just pipping Mags. Only 0.8 of a second in the end there, so Mags got caned a second in that last lap, which is incredible. Not even the last lap, I reckon, the last 2 sectors to take out P2. Maddox just gets the podium position on that last lap, as we just saw. Bubb now in P4 takes out the win in silver, and then the 3 Pro-Am guys, the podium for Pro-Am: Kumar, Buskavas, and somebody's left, unfortunately. There was definitely 3 Pro-Ams there for a second.
Would be in Webb, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, Webb. Oh, so he does hang on to that last position on the podium, so does pretty well for the championship points there. And we see Jerry, P7, takes out P2 in silver class, and then Mali and the guy in the McLaren, in the 277 McLaren, in P9, to round out the silver podium there.
I want to call attention to the fact that J Mags did a 132.6 on the last lap of this race. Because that is an unbelievable time. That's faster than his qualifying time. That's faster than anyone has gone out throughout this last 75 minutes of racing. So, yeah, J Mags was, very much the fastest person on track, but Mitch Hobbs with a good start held onto the lead all the way through the race. and calculated his strategies perfectly, I should say, if I pronounce things correctly. And had to react to J-Mags and what he was going to do on strategy, and was able to respond to that correctly. So hats off to Mitch Hobbs, an absolutely brilliant result for him. Race win, and a 61-minute and 24-second race. But yeah, Maddox in P3, Sean Bubnout takes the silver victory, and Kumar, yeah, that was really unfortunate there. 2 corners from the end, or 3 technically, and unfortunately for him, he does miss out for that. I think we're just going to quickly run through the final results here on the screen. So silver will be Bubnow, as you've just gone through this, but Bubnow, Zeri, and Spinazi, and Pro-Am, Kumar, Buskovics, and Daniel Webb, and Am class will be Paul Cranach and Taplin. Yeah, honestly, overall a really good race. Love to see the changing conditions in terms of the server time. It's really nice to see racing at night here at Misano, because it really introduces a whole bunch of interesting things. But we are going to round out our split yellow coverage there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. Final couple of words from our fellow commentators here, Brenno Ellis and Brent Sykes, before we hand over to Split Green.
It was great for you guys to join us tonight. It was awesome to be in the booth with you, George and Brent. It was a pleasure as always. Great race tonight. GG's to Mitch Hobbs. Nailed the launch off the start and just held on for the rest. And Pip Mags by a whisker at the end there, but you win by an inch or a mile. It doesn't matter. But yeah, some awesome racing throughout the field tonight. It was good to watch.
Yeah, definitely some really great racing all across the field tonight from a lot of the drivers. So yeah, really stepping up and setting the standard for the rest of the splits tonight and tomorrow, and on to Donington Park next week.
Indeed, and Season 17 will continue next week. Of course, we've got Split Green coming up for you now. Tomorrow will be Split Blue and Split Red, but that'll be the final word for us from the yellow commentary box as we hand over to the very eloquent, knowledgeable, and safe hands that is John P.S. Neckis, Cameron Thistlewaite, and Alexis Bohan. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
Hello.
Thank you very much to the guys at Split Yellow. Thank you, George Cook, Brent Ellis, and Brent as well. And we're just waiting for a changeover as we'll switch to Split Green. But happy to be here with Jean-Pierre Sinigas and Alexis Bowen. And thank you again. Obviously, we got Neil on the cameras as well as we go to the very end of practice. We're a bit early today of the pre-practice before the first qualifying session for Split Green. How are we today, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, very good. Looking forward to some Misano racing. One of my third tracks in ACC. Definitely a fun track, but very, very tricky to get right. And makes for some very good close racing. And just based on what we can see from the practice standings here, I'm thinking we're in for quite a competitive qualifying as well. How are you, Alexis?
Yes, I'm doing well, JP. Looking through the order, we've got some very, very fast drivers in this split, as you'd expect from most of the splits, if not all of the splits here at Octane Online Racing. The competitiveness is through the roof, and yeah, I can definitely echo the sentiments of Misano being a preferred track. In fact, I'd almost go out to say that it's probably my favorite track in this game.
Ooh, that's a big call. How do you feel about that, Cameron?
Oh, I wouldn't put it as my favorite. I think I've had some very hit or miss races here, some highs and some very low lows as well. But this is my definition of a technical track. It's very, very hard to pull a lap around here. Famously, you know, kind of designed and known not for really sports car racing, known for its two-wheel compatriots here in Italy. The famously Misano Grand Prix circuit, also named Marco Simoncelli, who unfortunately passed away several years ago. But yes, very, very interesting circuit, very odd flow to it as well. But yeah, very, very tricky. You kind of have to know where to cut and where to not cut. And yeah, going to be very interesting to see who comes out on top here.
Yeah, as they say, the ideal line at Misano is mostly off of the track. So, but it'll be interesting. What's your, if you had to rate the three Italian tracks? So we have Misano, Monza, and Imola. How would you tier those out of the three?
I mean, on a personal level, it will definitely be Misano on top, then a fair odd gap down to Imola, and then another fair odd gap down to Monza.
That's a fair shot. I mean, for me personally, it would be Imola, P1, Misano, not too far behind it, and then Monza, quite a long way behind both of those. But
Yep.
yeah, I just prefer Imola. I still believe that Aqua Minerale is pretty much the best segment of corners on any track in the game. But Misano does, as you said, Cameron, it does have a bit of an awkward flow. But once you get it right and you, as you said, learn where to cut, where to extend the track limits, and learn to make the most of it, it is quite a satisfying track to get a lap right. Although that is something that doesn't happen very often.
Absolutely. Just a bit of housekeeping. This is a 15-minute qualifying session, and will be followed by a full 60-minute race, to my understandings, with 2 mandatory stop for tires. Looks to be a nice day here in the Italian region of Emilia Romagna, and yeah, it looks like high 20s, sort of the somewhat optimum setting. But of course, the race will be taking place a bit later in the day, into the twilight region, from what I recall.
We just got a race control message saying that the green race will take place during the day due to a server error. So we unfortunately will not get the same Twilight experience that we just had in Split Which, I mean, what an exciting race that was. I mean, the battle towards the end for the podium was really feisty there. But yeah, unfortunately we won't quite get the same weather experience here in green. So hopefully that can get resolved tomorrow night for Split Blue and Split Red.
Hopefully we still have the same weather variability that we have, because it in the practice server, anybody who's done a couple of laps so far this week knows that it is quite variable and there's a very good chance of rain. And I think Misano is one of those tracks that really lends itself to a wet race. It's just because of how tricky it is to use all of the curbs, and as we all know, using a curb in the wet is not advised. So it really spices it up, and it really brings out the drivers who can figure out the wet line a little bit more to the forefront.
I don't think I've raced here in the wet since 2020. Now think about it. I think my first race here was in the wet, and they've been bone dry ever since.
When it rains here, it certainly pours, and as JP was saying just before, it is very tricky to make your way around this circuit when it does rain, because obviously when you're driving the circuit, most of the time you're off the track or are just having a couple wheels on the curves, as we saw there from Connor Hind coming out of Quercia Curve. And yeah, no, it's very tricky to get the wet conditions hooked up, I suppose. Just seeing all other settings have been confirmed as correct, but it's just the start time that seems to be having a few issues.
Seeing the wind is only at 1 kilometer an hour in the practice server, it's been as high as 31 kilometers an hour, which has quite the impact on how the cars perform, and especially a couple of corners as you come towards the end of the straight, where you need to rely on the downforce. So it'll be interesting to see if that picks up a little bit. We see Connor Hind here, he'll be the first driver to set a lap. It's looking like it is a valid one, and it is a 1:33.1, which is a very solid banker, but he'll definitely be looking to get sort of into the mid 32s or so, based on what I've seen from him in practice and what we just saw in the free practice session ahead of time as well. Brad Cook there into P2 immediately. Benjamin Hignett and J-Rad probably won't be happy with those times. Same for Christopher Taylor there. Be able to improve quite a lot.
Connor's got some good rotation in the McLaren, while still having quite a stable rear that you can get on the power without having to correct it too much, but still has enough rotation in the front axle to not have to, you know, take very sort of wider lines. I think most of my races have been here in a Mercedes, and due to the front weight, you kind of have to be a bit more extreme with the lines to get the car turned in.
Yeah, it's a track that suits the McLaren quite well, just because the McLaren is so strong with that mid-corner speed, and you can take some wide lines to carry a lot more speed through quite a few of the corners here. There's not that many very slow corners kind of behind here, coming up to probably the slowest after lot, the hairpin. So yeah, it really suits the McLaren. That's a lot of inside curb. I'm not sure that's the ideal line, but let's see as he goes through the last two corners here. Both of them very tricky to get right. You need to cut so much of the inside here. Can take even more than that, and then be very careful of invalidating on the exit there as he comes across the line for his second go at it, and he improves to a 32.9. So that is laying down the benchmark for the rest of the field to try and chase. At the moment, nobody within half a second of him. So let's see what the rest of Split Green is able to do here in the remaining 10 minutes.
And it did look like he had more in it, because as you said, it was quite a bit of an awkward entry into the hairpin. Looked a little sluggish, a little bit too much inside curb potentially. May have just unsettled the car, slowed down his exit. But right now, he is half a second clear of Hamilton, who's just gone into P2 in the 806 BMW. Currently on board here with Brad Cook in the 695 Porsche.
Don't really have any championship standings to race off, but just a reminder for last week, race 1 was won by Connor Hind with Cook second and Hignett in P3, and race 2 was also won by Hignett, followed by Taufik and Hamilton. I believe actually, sorry, it was Hamilton who had a Taufik because of the penalty that Taufik had. So I'd probably wager Hignett's probably leading the championship right now, but between Hind, Taufik, Hamilton even, Wittner, there's so many top drivers at the top there, and none of them are driving cars. I don't think going to be too disadvantaged at this track.
Yeah, from what I've been seeing, the BMW is obviously the one with the most ballast due to the BOP being applied, and it has, I think, 39 kilos, which will have a bit of an effect, but it is a very, very fast car around here. As we see, Hind improves to a 32.7. Brad Cook, another one of those championship competitors, coming around the final corner with a 33.1. He's within half a second, but nobody is looking capable of challenging Connor Hind at the moment. I saw Liam Hamilton and I think Luke Johnson, quite a few of the other drivers in the practice service during the week, into the 32s. But as we all know, putting a lap together in these qualifying sessions is always a very tricky endeavor, and especially on a track like this where invalidating your lap is very, very easy to do. But we have about just under 8 minutes remaining. We have a couple of laps on the board now. We've seen JC predict that Hind will get pole with a 32.5. Do we have any predictions in the comms box of who is going to be potentially P1? It looks as though Hind is set on that, but who do we think is the top 3 here?
Well, I think Hind will probably take pole position, and just to make JC very, very happy, I'm going to say that Hind gets a 32.499. In P2, I'm going to say it will be Taufik, and P3, I'm going to go with Hamilton.
Yeah, it's hard to look past Connor Hind right now, where he's got a 5/10 gap to the rest of the field in the 705 McLaren, on form very much so. And I'd probably go with maybe I'd say Cook will be up there as well, maybe with a surprise Hignett, because I don't think we've seen the best from him so far.
We just talk about Cook. Cook has improved again and is into the 32s now, just under 3/10 off of Connor Hind, and those two are now the only drivers into the 32s. See a couple of drivers now returning the pits to change those tyres. Hamilton improves to just under 5/10 away from Hind's time. But this circuit is very much about getting that flow. If you don't have that flow to make your way around the track cleanly and consistently, then you're not going to get an ideal time in whatsoever. You have to have that connection between yourself and the car to really work your way through the corners and maximize your commitment.
Yeah, there's certainly quite a few corners here. This is one of them where you need to carry the speed and make sure that the car is stable on the exit, and then this following corner, I think this is the bane of most people's existence on this track here. It's such a tricky braking zone, getting the nose turn in and then getting on the power so much earlier than you'd think would be reasonable, to try and carry as much speed on the exit as possible. And then coming down the back, not straight here, taking full commitment into this little kink with a mild little brake and then very high speed, take as much curb as possible, extend the limits as much as possible, and then hard on the brakes into the hairpin, gets it in nicely into the apex there. And then 2 more corners to go, but they are very tricky corners to get right. You need to take the right amount of curb on the inside, use all of the exit, and then this final corner is all about maximizing entry and exit curbs. That was a very good run through the final sector, but I think he validated early in the lap. Let's see if this is a valid lap. No, it is a valid lap, and he goes P3 with a 133 dead.
Looked very clean from Taufik through, particularly through the middle part of the lap. Looks like he was really committed through the medium to fast speed corners, and even through the hairpin, the car didn't look like it was too oversteer. It just seemed to abide by his controls. So it's a solid lap there for Taufik. He'll want to improve a little bit more, try and edge his way closer to Connor Hines 32.7, but that's still a very solid lap time.
I think Alex Tonkin is another driver that we'll see move up, maybe not in positions, but certainly in terms of time. Seen him do 32.7 in the practice during the week, so good track for him, good track for the Lambo, and he's looking very strong, so I'm sure he'll be hoping to get a proper lap together. And then one of our season debutants here is a jump up from the Academy Series, which is of course a nice shout out to the Academy Series. If you're looking at this and you're looking at these times and it's looking a little bit daunting and you're thinking, oh, I can't match these guys, that is what the Academy Series is for. It's for beginners, it's for those who want to learn. We have weekly track walkthroughs to teach you the tracks, teach you how to go fast around them, and lots of knowledgeable people in the Discord as well to dish out some information to those who need it.
Absolutely. I don't think everyone's out on track right now. I don't think I was gonna say under 5 minutes you really want to be out there, and no point coming in for a set of tires because you won't really get them up to the right windows with anything less than 5 minutes in it. You need it probably 2 laps to get them at their best. But very good showing for Tonkin to run through the other classes. Obviously we've got Tonkin leading out silver, and I believe we had Stimson topping out Pro-Am at the time, and not too sure about Am right now. But we obviously have Julian Gray in the AM class, and Bolt, Carter, and Fisher.
You see Tonkin there, he improved to a 33.1 and he is up by a little bit over a 10th at the moment as he's on another lap. Gains a bit of time on the exit there. Nope, loses some of it again. And he's still pretty much net 1.1 tenths up as he's coming through the corner onto the back straight. He gains a little bit through the middle of the corner, loses some of it on the exit. Now it's coming into that final sector, which is all about commitment. Let's see if he can improve and move himself up. This will be almost enough to put him into P2 at the moment. So if he can have a good final sector here, this will be a very important lap for his qualifying.
This looks very clean so far. Of course, Lamborghini, Italian manufacturer, so very much a home track here for the Lamborghini, and Tonkin so far is doing wonders.
Would just get away with it, but that car in front of him, I don't think did him any favors. Still an improvement up to P3. Very good, strong outing from Tonkin as well. And one of only 2 Lamborghinis in the split. I think the Lamborghini's taken a bit of a hit lately in terms of choices across most of the split.
It's a very strong contender here. At Misano, it's very strongly bopped, so it's certainly a good opportunity for the Lambo drivers to get a good performance out of it. That's a bit wide, and he had a very poor first sector.
I think he's backed out of it to try and build some form of gap to the Ferrari ahead of him. He doesn't have the issues that he had on the end of his last lap because he lost a couple tenths of a second, just getting held up a little bit by the Ferrari.
Yeah, he was a little bit loose on the exit of the last corner. did it cost him probably about half a tenth, I'd say. But yeah, looking at the weight of the Bob, 2 kilos for the Hurricane even, so not much according to this sheet at least. But yes, as I said, like the BMW most amount of weight, followed by the Mercedes. Surprisingly, Mercedes has been quite strong here in the past. It's you wouldn't really think it when you see how good the mid-engine cars are, but you know the grunt of the Mercedes and the ability to kind of iron fist those curbs down into the tarmac, you know, does pay dividends. And worrying for Mr. Peach is minus 40 kilos for the Bentley, so you got some work to do, I think, if it's right at the limit of weight loss.
The good news is it was supposed to be 44 kilos, but the max they can do is 40. So
40, yep.
as we see, Hignett there comes around the corner. He's only going to get this lap. That's not going to be very happy with a 33.6 there. That's going to put him P9 at the moment with still quite a few drivers on laps, and he'll definitely not be happy with that qualifying performance. Jacob Weatherburn here loses a bunch of time going through that corner, and he backs off right out of it. And then we
Brilliant,
have
great. P10, 9 tenths within pole. That's extraordinary. And followed by the other AM, I believe that was in P11 as well. That's extraordinary out. I was going to say, it's really close.
that's a
Palmer
fantastic lap.
crosses line to P13. Yeah, it's about just over a second separating the top 12 there, and Connor Hind was not able to improve, so a 32.7 is his lap time. Here's Stimson crossing the line. He'll be the last to cross the line. Does not find any improvement. Stays P16, but it was Connor Hind who took the pole position there from Taufik, who was the Ferrari in front of Tonkin earlier on. Taufik managed to get the lap time in towards the end. Snatched P2 from Brad Cook's Porsche. Then we had Tonkin in the Lamborghini leading your silver class there before you had Johnson, Hamilton, Vintner, Weatherburn, Hignett, and Gray doing wonders there in the AM class with Carter close behind.
Yes, big outliers there. That's extraordinary work to get within a second of pole, and you know, P10 is your reward. Finding his feet there in the Honda is Mr. Gray, and a good showing from Carter as well in the McLaren. Good mix of cars up and down this whole field. It's been no real one dominant manufacturer, evidently.
Yeah, I think you'll see a decent mix of cars. That's the benefit of obviously using the BOP, is it brings us certain cars into play, and generally, regardless of BOP or whatever the case may be, you'll see pretty much the same drivers towards the pointy end. Sometimes it just mixes up the order of those top drivers, but you have a couple of drivers who will generally be in that at least top 5, and that's why it's quite a surprise to see Hignett in P9. He's out of position from where he'd normally be, so he'll be looking to move forward in the race. And this is one of those races where we have the 2 mandatory pit stops, as you mentioned, which gives at least a little bit of opportunity. If you're out of position, maybe dive into the pit lane nice and early, get some clean air running, and try and undercut those drivers ahead of you. Misano is fairly heavy on tires, but it's not the heaviest track on tires, and only an hour race with 2 pit stops. You don't really have to worry about tire wear affecting you. So it's going to be interesting to see Hignett, Weatherburn, Vintner, Hamilton, whether they can do anything to move forward into that top 5.
Yeah, and the traffic dealing with other cars around you is going to be the bigger issue compared to the tires, because Misano certainly isn't the easiest track to make overtakes on. If you're trying to make a move on a driver who's very similar on pace to you, you've really got to push for it. You've got to almost force an error from the driver in front to make a clean move, or you have to be very, very brave.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of side-by-sides going down the back straight into the kink, and sometimes it works and sometimes it ends in tears, and I feel like it's about a 50-50 split between those 2 outcomes. So yeah, I think the strategy and the undercut will come into play, certainly for a couple of positions here. I'm getting the feeling, though, that Mr. Hind at the front, if he can get a good start, I think he will very much just walk away from this field ever so slightly. And I think Taufik, Cook, and Tonkin are in for a bit of a battle for the next hour.
And you have a word, or you have an association with this track. I find as well in the races is drive-throughs and track limits. It's very easy to maybe cut a little bit too much at that corner in particular, that Heinz, and this one in particular. I've been quite burnt at. Gains you a lot of time, but also can be pretty ruthless as well. As I said at the start of the build-up of this, a lot of the racing line is off the track or the fastest line. Even on coming into these braking zones, Connor, even on his outlap, is still kind of tracing those lines as he normally would.
Yeah, for sure, and it's very important to have 2 or 3 good clean laps at the start of the race, and that builds yourself a little bit of a buffer in terms of getting warnings. And sometimes you'll get away with what would normally be a warning if you have a good first lap or second lap. So yeah, we saw quite a few drive-throughs for track limits in split yellow. Hopefully split green can avoid more of those, but as you said, Misano, pretty tricky to avoid them at.
It's always important to remember that the your fastest lap also gets reset. You're on the every time you pit as well, so it's gonna be interesting out there. But hopefully it means with fresh tire grip, you should be sticking within the lines. Hopefully, but that's never always that's the plan, but never always the execution.
Yep.
Very tight couple of first corners here, so hopefully we can just avoid any safety cars or virtual safety cars or too many yellow flags, but it does get very congested, as we all know, at the start of this race.
Yeah, it is a very tricky first sector, very easy to go side by side. So as we come into the final corner here on this formation lap for split green here, Connor Hind is leading them away with Taufik next to him, Brad Cook, Alex Tonkin on the second row, Luke Johnson, Liam Hamilton on the third row, Benjamin Vintner, Jacob Weatherburn, Benjamin Hignett, and Julian Gray rounding out the top 10 here for split green. And we are green at the start of the race. We see McLaren onto the grass in the background. Great start from Taufik. Can he hang it around the outside of Hind into turn 1? Tonkin gets turned around there. I'm not sure who ran into the back of him, but that is very unfortunate after the strong qualifying performance at the front. It looks as though it's fairly clean apart from Tonkin, who got taken out. I can't see who is leading, but Hind is still in the front. Taufik right behind him, Brad Cook right behind him, Luke Johnson up into P4 there, and right behind him there's the BMW Yoda, Jacob Weatherburn with a great start. He's up into P6, followed closely by, I think, Liam Hamilton as well. And it looks as though the front 10 or so got away cleanly apart from the incident with Tonkin there. We see one other car in the background there. It looks like it's 476. I really hope it is not, because that is Julian Gray. But I'm getting the sinking feeling that he was one of the cars involved in that lap 1 incident. And that's such a shame after such a strong qualifying performance. But Matthew Bolt here in P11, followed closely by Fercolini. And we have cars going side by side on lap 1. This is going to be very interesting. Danny Vu, I think the BMW has the legs on the McLaren, and he settles in behind with Ryan Stimson here right behind him in the Mercedes, as we said, heavily bobbed, so hopefully he is able to keep it under control. Settles right into the slipstream of Danny Vu as they come into the hairpin for lap 1, and Connor Hind is about to round the final corner for the first time. He has had a great start, and he's already built about a 1 second gap to Moyen Taufik there.
Yeah, really good start from Hind. He was under a bit of pressure from Taufik, but managed to hold the inside line and cut back across the second part of the chicane. And I think, yeah, we had the incident involving Tonkin, and I dare say it may have been Hamilton who was the instigator of that one in the 806 BMW there, just looking at the liveries. And yes, I believe, unfortunately, it was Julian Gray was the other one who went around just a little bit of contact in the middle of the field, going through the middle of the first chicane, and around he went. Just a bit of a slow incident, not his fault at all, and very unfortunate for him. But either way, he'll be looking to fight back the best he can.
Yeah, he'll be very frustrated with that, as he's anybody who's been in the Discord, he's such a fan of that Honda, and he really puts a lot of effort into getting it up into high positions, and he really nailed the qualifying, and for that to all fall apart on lap 1. Hopefully he can keep his wits about him, get back into this battle pack and make up some positions and still get a good enough result out of it. But we see Liam Hamilton here putting a lot of pressure on Jacob Weatherburn, trying to look up the inside there. You need to be side by side by the time you get to the braking zone there to make anything work, but he is really piling the pressure on, looking very strong in that BMW in his opening laps.
A lot of wheel work behind the wheels, so we had to kind of almost yank the thing to get it around the hairpin as well. And hope he doesn't overstretch those front tires too hard in the first stint, as he's, you know, with 2 tire stops, he's still got to take him for, you know, ideally the next 15 minutes. But I don't think that's going to be the least of his problems, as he's probably got the looming scythe of the stewards over him for that contact at the start. But we'll see what happened. We've yet to see a replay. It could have just been an unfortunate racing incident. But yes, Carter up to P8. Well, did start P11 behind Julian Gray, and unfortunately, commiserations for Mr. Gray as well. But you know, if he's got that pace, then you can do a lot in the race. You know, qualifying is one thing. Points are on the Sunday. But Carter up to P8 and holding his own as well as Mr. Bolt here in the other AM McLaren, right behind Palmer, I believe, as I believe Hignett has gone through.
Yeah, he just overtook him, and of course Carter and Bolt are duo series teammates. So there's a little bit of that internal team competition of who beats who in the sprint races. Bolt will be looking to catch up to Carter, ahead of him a little bit. Damiano Ferglini here in the beautiful Porsche. He'll be looking for a better result than last week. He got involved in an incident in race 1 or 2. I can't recall exactly, but he had a bit of a poor round. And he'll be looking for a solid result here, piling the pressure onto the back of Bolt there.
Rain in 30, boys.
Rain in 30, excellent.
Spice.
I wasn't expecting that with the sunny atmosphere that we got on right now, but batten the hatches going as Connor Hyde sets at 33-2. Sorry to interrupt there, Alexis.
No, you're right, yeah, 33-2, that's a very quick race lap from Con Hind, already 1.2 seconds clear of Taufik, and looking on again with Liam Hamilton, who was looking really strong behind Jacob Weatherburn earlier on. We've got a yellow flag, and that's just going through the chicane. That's the
Costa.
99 of Costa, yeah. So it's fallen off the road at the turn 1-2 complex.
Tompkins in the pits as well.
Tompkins is in the pits, yeah, I was just about to say. Hopefully that's just a mandatory stop, getting that out of the way, putting some fuel in for that 30-minute mark, and then coming in again when the rain starts. But the question is going to be, it's light rain at the moment, will it increase, and how long will it last?
Well, we may not be getting a day to night race, but why not a bit of a cheeky ride a wet race?
Yeah, different way of it.
Yes.
So that was a mandatory stop. He'll be hoping he gets out with a decent bit of a lead to Hind. The last thing you want to do in one of these races is become a perpetual blue flag, and I'm afraid that may well be the case for him here. Let's see how close Hind is behind him on exit. I think it's going to be less than about 3 seconds or so, and that won't be ideal for Tonkin. It might be a little bit more than that though.
Yeah, no, he's
Can't
got
afford to
about
hang around.
5-6 seconds.
He needs to use all of that spaghetti and quality to make sure he stays ahead, because as soon as one goes, then the rest are going to come through, and then there'll be a spiral train. But heads up move there from Tonkin. Yeah, maybe get one of the fix any damage he may have gotten at the start as well. And obviously he was right on the back of the field, making some moves, but better to undercut them if you can, especially if you know that there's rain coming in the future.
Yeah, he'll be keeping an eye on the weather radar, and could very well choose to go quite long on this stint to try and make it to the rain. If it does want to intensify, we won't get too many updates yet for another 5-10 minutes or so yet.
I'd be very worried as Tonkin. He's really not that far ahead of behind. So we get to a replay from the start. Excellently called by you, PJ. Peach at the start, but as we did see, one of the McLarens was on the grass, and it was a bit 3 into 1,
Okay.
and dear, unfortunately, Tonkin paid the price, and that might be a bit of
That'll be
bit
an
more of a
invoice
death
for
spell.
Hamilton.
Yeah. As Julian Gray, he's survived all that calamity at the start, but oh no, I think he's gonna get assistance, and oh dear, and I'm not too sure which McLaren. He didn't go fully round. There's Denny Boo. Oh dear.
It looks as though Julian Gray just checked up a little bit more than was maybe necessary, but Denny Boo just not quite anticipating it, and it's the slightest of taps, but unfortunately it's put an end to Julian Gray's very strong competitive sort of start to the race. He is still in P20, so not all is lost, and it's a very tight pack in the middle there, so he certainly can move forward. Benjamin Hignett, speaking of moving forward, getting a good run on Carter here. Will he be able to get alongside? As we see, Danny Boo gets a 15-second penalty for that contact, which I guess is fair enough for a lap 1 incident. Hignett up the inside of Carter. Will he be allowed the space? Carter has to be careful here for Barmer not to take advantage of the situation. They are going to be almost side by side, but Barmer is where you do not want to be for this corner, and that is the outside. Although he tries to hang it there, but maybe a little switcheroo. I don't think he'll get the exit, and that is Benjamin Hignett up into P8.
So it's going to be a struggle for the Porsche to get the drive out of the corner, even with the compromise entry to maximise the exit speed. But that was a nice clean move by Hignett set up earlier on, as that is a little bit wide from Carter, and Palmer just sticks the nose up the inside. Carter allows the space there if he wants to go for it. As you see, there we go. Hamilton picks up a 15-second penalty as well. Of course, that would have been the one with the Tonkin, yes. Sorry.
And the rain has increased to medium-heavy rain, so that'll be an interesting development. So that will definitely mean that the drivers will have to stop for wet tires. So the question, I guess, now is, do you pit soonish, get your one stop out of the way, and then pit for those wet tires when the rain comes? If it looks like it's going to run or rain long enough to stay on those wet tires for the rest of the race.
Definitely not a cold day out there. It's still 21 degrees air temperature, and that's the one you kind of have to look at a bit more with it when it comes to rain, and if it's going to dry out anytime soon. Yes, I'm glad I'm up here, high and dry, and not out there having to think while trying to navigate the 16 technical corners of this racetrack.
Does seem like they'll probably have around 15 or so minutes where the wet tyres could very well be the optimum tyre to be on. It all depends on how quick the rain arrives. As a Palmer in the slipstream of Carter. Can he force Carter into a little bit of a mistake again? Carter gets very loose, but manages to hold on to the McLaren for now. It's not going to do the tyres any good. He may be one that comes in a little bit earlier and tries to extend the middle stint out.
Bad news for Tonkin, as unfortunately he was caught behind and is now having to let everyone and their mother through, let's say. But didn't notice how Carter in the BMW did, Taylor in the BMW did a pit and has gotten one of his mandatories out of the way, and might be thinking along the same lines as Tonkin. As Carter, he's maybe a little bit of inexperience, kind of coming in a little bit of raggedness. But he's still doing a very good job out there, and unfortunately, as you know, you can afford to park it at a lot of places around this track, and the car behind just has to sit there and enjoy it, as that was quite close from Foxtrot into give Fisher a nice, surprise in the rear view. There's a lovely set of colours there on the Hurricane Evo.
When did I take LSD?
I don't know.
I don't know, but those colors certainly make me feel like I'm on an acid trip. It does look beautiful, though, as he keeps missing his braking. Maybe he is on some LSD. He's piling the pressure onto Jai Fisher ahead of him, and if maybe he can sort of just dial those braking markers back a couple of meters and get a bit more consistent, he should be able to pile the pressure on there. Jacob Weatherburn here under pressure still from Liam Hamilton, and he's catching up to Benjamin Vintner ahead of him. Taufik, I think, made a mistake on the previous lap, or maybe during the lapping of Tonkin, but he lost quite a bit of time to Cook. Cook caught up quite a lot, and now the gap has extended ever so slightly again. So, but Connor Hind looks fairly comfortable at the front, and none of these guys look very comfortable because this is quite a tight little battle pack between the three of them.
These BMWs don't look as hot in the races they were in quality. Obviously, they were very heavily bopped, so maybe they're kind of suffering a bit of extra, bit more, energy through their tires. Let's say with the additional weight, it's just kind of stretching them a little bit more on the sidewalls. That's very wide from Hamilton and goes wide onto the treacherous curbs as Weatherburn is looking to the outside now of Vintner. Is he along far enough? Oh, but here comes Hamilton as well, and hopefully sees him coming, thankfully. No,
Nope.
Oh, and Hamilton bonks him and goes for an own pirouette. Self-inflicted, I think, in that case. And all not going well for Mr. Hamilton in the Monster Energy car, and falls behind even Palmer as well.
And that was very much a case of if Gap car, and Gap was no longer there when he arrived, unfortunately.
Caution ahead of Grecian, please.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where you see the gap open and your mind and your hands react way before you had time to think about what you're supposed to do, and you just go for the gap, and then unfortunately closes up. And fortunately in that instance he was the one who lost out to it. Lucky for Jacob, just a little bit of a side-by-side contact, but yeah, Hamilton, he needs to just dial it back a couple of tenths. Pushing a little bit too hard, already on a penalty, and then getting involved in another incident. So might be a good time for him to just dive into pit lane, reset a little bit mentally, clear the fog, and then keep going again. But yeah, Brad Cook right back onto Taufik again. And Weatherburn, now he's not under pressure from behind anymore. He can mount this attack on Vintner ahead of him and potentially try and get the overtake done.
It was certainly a little bit of a late dive there by Hamilton up the inside of Weatherburn, just reacting to the potential move there from Weatherburn on Vintner, and yeah, may have just been caught out a little bit on the exit, but Weatherburn is looking like he's holding close enough to Vintner to has dropped back a little bit on this lap.
Yeah, it looks as though there's a couple of areas where the McLaren's a little bit faster, and then there's some where the BMW shines a little bit more. So this battle sort of to and froing a little bit. Through the rest of the field, there's a couple of little sort of closer battles. Julian Gray up into P19, putting pressure on Foxtrot there to get up into P18. So his recovery drive is off to a good start here, and is making some progress. But it's going to be interesting to see who out of the top sort of 10 here makes the first decision to dive into pit lane. Did anybody feel long enough to run all the way until the rain starts? Or will we start seeing some pit stops? Generally around this 15 to 20 minute mark is when you start seeing the first pit stop. So going to be...
There
we go. Here's my answer.
Connor Hind doing the fastest lap, even 15 minutes into the race. Not definitely the best of the tyres have gone from there. Definitely showing he's got a good stranglehold on this race, but got to keep it up still for 43 minutes. Go back to Cook as well, as you said, still right there on the back of Taufik, and doing well there in the Hertz Porsche, the Jota tribute, let's say.
And just thank you there to... damn it, I don't want to say thank you to him. Thank you, John, for the memberships there, for 20 lucky subscribers. But yeah, that is a beautiful livery. I mean, it's I think it looks a little bit better on the actual Jota car, but it's a pretty good translation of what it looks like. It looks very sexy, and he's getting quite close to the back of Taufik. Not sure if Taufik maybe just a little bit making some mistakes, allowing Cook to keep up, or Cook is just really coming into his own now, but the pressure is well and truly on here for Taufik as we are approaching the 20-minute mark in this race. Oh, that's very wide, and we see that Dan Foxtrot also with a drive-through for track limits, I suspect.
Yeah, he hasn't come into the pits yet, so that would definitely be for track limit. So only 17.5 minutes into this race, we already have a drive-through penalty there for Foxtrot. So definitely earlier on, but shows that the drivers who may have had a few calamities earlier on in the race, such as Ray and Tonkin, can certainly come back in this one.
Needs to get back in his flow, as he's given Johnson something to think about. Thankfully for him, Johnson wasn't any closer to capitalise on that mistake.
Palmer there.
Sorry, go on.
No, it looks as did Palmer and Hamilton just swap his. Oh, it's because Hignett dove into pit lane. Sorry. So somebody dove into pit lane, and that's changed a couple of the positions over. Benjamin Wintner here has completed his pit stop. He's your lead runner on a completed pit stop. That's a beautiful livery on Christopher Taylor's car there, sort of the old Williams livery, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, the old Williams liveries from the 2000s there.
yeah.
Early 2000s, the BMW Williams era.
Beautiful stuff.
There you go, Julian Gray up into P15 now. Of course, there's a couple of drivers who have completed their pit stop, so it's not his exactly
Oh dear.
with the meatball flag and targets. I mean, you can't
was
really
asking
blame
for
Danny
it.
Vu for hitting him, to be fair. So
He was asking for it.
yeah, you could say that Danny Vu didn't deliver because Julian Gray wouldn't have gotten a meatball flag from that hit. But apart from that, he certainly hit one of those targets, unfortunately for Julian. But we see Liam Hamilton dive into pit lane, and will Julian? So he's gotten past Foxtrot, who obviously served that drive-through, and now he's putting some pressure on Fisher, and that's for position in class. So he'll definitely be looking to get that move done sooner rather than later. Brad Palmer here putting pressure on one of Julian Gray's AM class competitors, running very well there up in P6. So yeah, Palmer in the Porsche. As we saw, Brad Cook there got a very spicy moment coming through the final corner earlier. So Palmer will be aware of the challenges the Porsche brings to the drivers, and going to be an interesting attempt to get past Carter here in this race.
Must
Biggie,
be getting sick of this McLaren now.
just to answer your question there, Hugs, there was a bit of an issue with the setup of the server, so unfortunately the time of day was incorrect. But they did add rain, so you know it sort of balances out. And Julian Gray very close to the back of Fisher here, almost side by side. He's gonna have to back out of that. He's not quite alongside enough to really get anything done. And whoa, that's quite the line by Fisher there. What a drift, and he holds it and hardly loses any time.
Yeah, the ideal line, turning left to go right.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very efficient Scandi flick there by Jai Fisher, as we see another couple of drivers, Herculini and Palmer, diving into pit lane. And more and more drivers coming into pit lane. So the question is, when is the rain going to start? It's going to be with about, what, 25 minutes remaining in the race, I think?
Yeah, from the estimates earlier on, I'd say 25 minutes to go would be about right, but they won't really need to put any sort of thought onto wet tyres until about 15 minutes to go. Oh, that's so loose there from Gray in the Honda.
To be fair, I think that's just Honda things, really.
Yeah. Well, it's Honda things, but also the fact that Gray has had to fight back from the back of the field.
Yeah, hopefully he won't be. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say he didn't get much damage. I think it was quite a light hit from Vu that kind of sent him into a half spin, so he wouldn't be suffering any damage. But the Honda does, I think, like a few cars, is very squirrely on exits, as the turbo mapping is quite aggressive. Well, the throttle mapping is quite aggressive to get those turbo squirreling.
Yeah, the Bentley comes to mind for squarely on exit. But we see Conor Hind and Luke Johnson, the two McLarens, coming in for a double stack pit stop here. And that puts Tawfiq into the lead, 2 seconds ahead of Cook after that very ambitious final corner. a couple of laps ago, Johnson was not too far behind Cook, so he could potentially get the undercut done here if he gets a good outlap. And now it's less rain in 30, so yeah, the track should stay wet until the end of the race, but it's going to be some orange and red tires towards the end of the race, I would say.
Most certainly. It's not going to be easy traveling for these drivers here in Split Green, but it makes it extra exciting for us watching on.
And of course, I'm one of those people that just the rain is my favorite part of this game. Basically, just driving in the rain just brings so much of a challenge to it, and really sort of, I don't know, it separates quite a lot of drivers who are very good in the dry and sometimes can't just dial it back for that wet weather performance, and certainly makes things interesting.
I mean, the rain promotes smoothness, which is, yeah, I think you can drive these GT3s quite aggressively in the dry and make time up for it, but in the wet, it kind of, yeah, smoothness is rewarded a lot more.
Most certainly, and you've got to adjust some of your lines as well, because around Misano you can't go out as wide or cut the corners nearly as much in the wet, because you get onto those curbs and they are like ice skating rinks.
Absolutely. In practice, a couple of times coming through the fast right-hander there, and I just ever so slightly dipped the wheel on that curb, and it is immediate death as soon as you touch it. So you really have to be careful. That's a great entry from Julian.
Oh,
Kind of
I
bunch of
I was
time.
speeding.
Maybe he didn't put it on in time, but hopefully
don't
not.
think he put it on in time, and he shot past quite a bit as well.
Sure.
If that's the line, if that's the official line, then
I'm gonna say he made it. I'm gonna be positive, and I'm gonna say that he did it in time. Something's going quite weird there with, I'm not sure if it's the server or just the stream, but Brad Cook doing some very strange things.
We're back.
And welcome, Elwood Rambler. How are you, sir? If you're racing with us, this is what you're going to be dealing with: rain and disaster. So certainly going to be interesting. Brad Cook, one of the only lead drivers to have not stopped. We saw Taufik and Weatherburn diving into the pit lane there. So I think out of the initial top 10, Brad Cook is the only driver to have not stopped. So I'm wondering if he is somebody who fueled all the way until the rain. Oh, never mind. So I don't have to wonder that anymore.
Speaking of rain, we've got rain in 10 minutes, and getting confirmation from Diabols that the rain will go to the end of the race.
I was gonna say it just had a plus on it, which has just disappeared, so it should be.
Now it's got a
safe.
minus on it.
Well, now it's got a minus on it. It had a plus. I'm not crazy.
Yes,
Rewind
yeah,
that
no,
one.
yeah, I saw it too.
I don't usually agree with Ferox, but for this time I will. Oh, Hicknet manages to keep it out of the back of Palmer. That was very, very close to an incident there. I think Palmer just checked up behind Carter, and Hicknet did very well. He did very well in terms of driving, not so much in terms of livery design. But anyway, we are seeing something on screen that
textures.
Looks like one of those Windows 2000s backgrounds or screensavers.
Every
but
time
yeah,
I try to play Gary's mod, that's what you see.
Yes.
It's a good run into the airburn. Oh, Palmer very wide.
Space.
Yeah.
And there you go. Gray's got a stop go 30.
Oh,
Okay, so my positivity did not pay off. Sorry, Julian, but I did try. But yeah, that's a good move from Hignett there. Moves up into provisional P12 at the moment. Of course, some drivers ahead of them have yet to complete their pit stop. And Carter will be aging very quickly today because he has been under relentless pressure in both stints so far. And the rest of the race doesn't look like it's going to get any easier for him.
Managed it very well, though.
He hasn't looked flustered at all so far, but certainly when you have... There's always a couple of names that you know generally are faster than you, and once you see them right on your tail, it starts getting into your head a little bit. But yeah, as you said, so far he hasn't really appeared to be bothered by whoever is behind him. And so it's going to stop raining with about 3 minutes left in the race. Obviously won't really affect the wet tires, but yeah, that's going to be quite an interesting time to see who will be the first to bite the bullet and dive into pit lane.
Well, just finally coming over. The sun is gone, so the transition is starting now. And even just the track temp is ever so, coming down a little bit. And the blaring heat has kind of gone from the peak of the daytime around this time in the game. Yes, it's not going to rain apparently at the end of the race.
Darker.
Yeah. Not too subtle, ACC with its transitions sometimes.
No.
It's a bit kind of night and day, like a bit of a switch. But
I would say the night and day is not too bad. The wet or the cloudy to not cloudy is not fantastic.
Incremental.
Yeah, so get some confirmation that Danny Vu is on an extended stint, so he might perform his first pod stop once the rain starts. But I think given the fact that the rain is going to go all the way to the end, I'm not sure that's that much of a benefit, to be fair.
That's a move and a half there from Benjamin
Yep.
Hicknett.
Big commitment, and Carter allowed him the space, and Hicknett up into P8. Now he has an 11-second gap to Vintner ahead. He'll be trying to chase that down as quickly as he can. But the gaps in the top 10 has split up quite a bit, apart from Vintner still very close behind Weatherburn. And actually that brings it into the point that Weatherburn got the overtake done on Vintner maybe in the pit stops, because he is ahead of him now.
Yeah, say so. And Vintner now all over the back of Weatherburn, and looks like Palmer might be starting to shape up a move there on Carter. Got a pretty solid exit, and I think, yeah, he's starting to move out. Is he going to stay committed through the kink? This could be tight. This could be very loose. Palmer tries to keep the nose up there. They've kept each other, given each other a fair amount of room. That's a bit tight, though. But Palmer now with the outside line, Carter with the inside. Can Carter hold onto it, or will Palmer get the exit? Carter will stick the nose up the inside of final corner. They're still going side by side. They've been going side by side for half a lap now. And Chris Taylor has got the popcorn out and is loving this. But now Palmer should have the upper hand. Carter, will he go for a switchback? No, he has to back out of it and is actually going a little bit wide, trying to hold off Chris Taylor. And now Chris Taylor is under all sorts of pressure from Turcolini behind. Oh no, is that...
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
Oh, just a bit late there from Taylor, and a small tut.
And through goes Turcolini.
Excellent
Unfortunately for
overtake.
Carter, he did very well to avoid the contact there, but that is a shame there. Taylor just a little bit too aggressive on the brakes, makes a slight contact, but Carter wants it back. He sends it up the inside. Turcolini not closing the door quite enough, and Carter takes it back immediately, and now Taylor will have to get past Turcolini as well.
if gap car gone right.
Yes. Actually pulled it up in time, kept on the inside line, and didn't lean on his teammate. And very good there from Ferkley to kind of see him coming in and didn't fight it too hard. It was kind of won and lost at the moment.
I think it's one of those defensive situations where you're like, surely he's not going to pull that up, and then, oh, he's actually pulled it up.
Yeah.
Good move, sir. Well done. It's like, just let him go. He earned it. Fair enough.
Yep.
But Vintner here putting the pressure on Jacob Weatherburn here. See Julian Gray there. Did he only just serve his stop-go 30 now?
Yes.
I think the capitulation of what was a good qualifying session has very well and truly come apart here. He is now in P23 and probably a lap or two down already. So it really has gone from wrong to very wrong for him here. That's very unfortunate to see. But
having a good recovery could have been, I reckon he could have maybe even got into that mid-teens even by the end of the race with the pace he had, but unfortunately that stop and goes really nailed that one in the ground.
It's always tricky coming into pit lane so close behind somebody else, because you want to gain some time coming into pit entry, and then you get a bit optimistic and just speed a little bit, and speeding a little bit can have a very, very detrimental effect As we see a report of drops of rain in the car park. No, George, that's just sweat in your helmet. Do not worry,
Thanks,
the rain
Dex.
has not arrived yet.
Did Brian Vu just fuel up for the whole race, or
Danny Boo.
yes, Danny Vu, not Brian Vu.
Okay,
Danny's
Brian
evil
is
twin.
quite a
Brian Vu.
random name to throw in there, but let's go with Brian Vu. He, I think he
Sorry.
put 40 minutes of fuel, if I remember the discussions we were having earlier.
I know a Brian Vo. That's what it was.
Sure, yeah, of course. It's your imaginary friend is your friend. I believe
That's
when
as insightful as Ted Kravitz gets.
No, that's Will Buxton. That sounds like more like a Will Buxton saying that when when it rains, the track gets wet.
in
Come from the
F1,
school of Captain
when
Obvious.
rain falls from the sky, the track gets wet. It's
Where is
dramatic.
this rain?
Dramatic music and tire noises in the background. Liam Hamilton, he is back into P15 here, and he's behind Alex Duncan after everything is played out with his penalties. So good recovery from Duncan so far, back up into P14 after a bit of a disastrous start, and maybe in the rain he can make up a few more positions. I'm sure the rain is going to start in the next minute.
Yes.
Like a light switch, as ACC does, as the track temps now come down to 26. So hopefully people are getting their pressures right, because it's been changing quite a bit from the start of the session.
As we see there, Hamilton very close behind Tonkin. Both of them are very close behind Bolty in the McLaren. Saw his teammate get a little boop up the rear end. Hopefully Bolty can avoid any kind of contact here. There's a very
That's
tight
right.
battle,
Yeah, there it is.
and the switch has been flicked.
And we're already down the fast, and that is Tonkin straight into the pits.
That may be a little bit early. I think he's going to cook his tires if he puts bits on now. Maybe it's the. That's also, yeah. Maybe it's raining where Mull is, which is affecting the quality of the signal. But yeah,
on the switchboard again.
Already down to Greasy.
Greasy.
Might not be a bad call from Tonkin. It does seem to just change like a switch these days. Even the track zone. Even though I thought it would be quite warm and at 19 degrees it wouldn't be this dramatic, but hey ho, might be wrong at this rate. As Danny Vu has come in. Looks like it's got it stopped at the pit line for 50 Ks, and that looks like the leader of Mr. Hine behind him.
Also known as Brian Vu. So quite a few drivers deciding to get onto the wet tires. Alex Duncan leaves pit lane, so we'll start getting an indication of how those wet tires work. Cook dives into pit lane as well. See Jai Fisher as well into pit lane. Taufik stays out. Johnson stays out.
Yeah,
Weatherburn. I think on a greasy track, the dry tires will still work fairly well. It's normally towards the sort of the change between greasy and damp where it really starts becoming the changeover period. So I think these dries will still be able to match the wets in terms of pace, but it's starting to get into that zone where you want to make that call. Who is your favorite F1 commentator? Well, it's not Ted Kravitz, I can tell you that much.
There's only one option there. If you like the rest, then we're not friends.
If that one is Martin Brundle, then okay, we can still be friends. If
Even
not, then...
we can be friends.
Well, friends maybe a bit of a strong word, but as we see Connor Hine there.
Adversaries in.
I mean, I would say Martin Brundle, but I'd say that his son's actually got the better of him these days. Alex Brundle is fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah. If we can get Alex Brundle and Alex Jacques in Formula 1 commentary, I would be very, very pleased.
Yes, well, I mean, Alex Jacques already does the F1 TV commentary.
Yes, I
alongside
normally
Julian
listen to
Palmer.
that, Yes, and they're excellent.
Yes, very much so. Unfortunately, we are stuck with the Sky Sports feed.
And we have some votes in chat as well. Alexis Bowen. I haven't watched
Love
one of
you,
his
JC.
official Formula One streams, but or her, sorry, apologies. But very excellent commentator. Barry, I'm not sure who Barry is. Murray Walker is, of course, an absolute legend and makes some, shall we say, questionable statements over the past.
How about these damp
No,
conditions we
someone
got now?
shoot Tom for saying Jonathan Ledyard.
Oh,
And Lucas Keys for saying James Allen.
Very as we see more drivers now diving into pit lane. Track is now damp, so now is when those wet tires will start being the dominant choice. Ooh, you can see that it's already getting quite interesting here.
That's our
Yes.
horrible call, just because of how much you run the bias towards the rear, and if you lock it, if you don't have that wheel straight as you're braking, especially in these conditions, not too hard to go for a nice slew around or a drift if you hold it.
The biggest problem with that kink is you can't really take it flat anymore. You just sort of need to lift a little bit, and as soon as you lift, the rear lightens, and it just makes it very, very tricky in these conditions. You see there, Vintner still all over the back of Weatherburn. Weatherburn looked as though he was piling the pressure onto Vintner, and then he got ahead of him through the pit stops, and they just stayed with each other. So it looks as though they're very, very evenly matched on pace. Yeah. But
Brad Cook lose a lot of time overall. He was up there on
Yes.
the podium.
he was P3. Wondering if
Even behind Vu as well, who's still got to do another stop, obviously.
oh,
dear,
Vintner, that's closing in.
I think Weatherburn was maybe a little cautious on the brakes, as he's entitled to do so, but would have been using all the brake pedal in the BMW for sure. So, dare say, Ben looks probably a little bit more confident here in these conditions. Be interesting to see the dynamic of the cars change. What's more suited for this weather?
Yeah, this is why, I mean, the McLaren is a nice car in the wet, but the BMW is also one of those that's has a very good traction control system that's very suitable for these types of conditions. I must admit the Bentley feels very nice in the wet conditions, so wouldn't mind a little bit of rain for split red tomorrow. Ferrari is always a strong choice, and I think at the moment in ACC the best car in the rain is still the Porsche. I may be incorrect in saying that, but I feel like that is still the obvious choice in the wet conditions.
I would go with Ferrari personally, but I haven't driven a Porsche in the wet. That said, I think the Porsche with the right setup probably is the best car. I could wager that in the wet. But if it's anything like the predecessor, if you didn't have the right setup, then it's oh dear, Mr. Wright is
Maybe that
not
particular Porsche is not the best in the wet, but it is a very strong car in the wet. It's just so good under acceleration, and he's on dry tires still for some obscure reason, unless that is the game bug. But,
No, that looks like dry.
certainly looks like it is dry. Yes.
Yes, that is not ideal for Mr. Wright there, as that is Vintner around the outside of Weatherburn, and Vintner should get the move done, and he does. So around the outside, if you don't mind, into Kershaw, and now Vintner has gone
And he's
way
off.
too deep and let Weatherburn right back through. But on the exit, Vintner might have a little bit of something here. There you go,
Yes,
around the outside.
Side by side through the kink in the wet. How can this end poorly? I don't see any way in which this ends poorly.
Vintner goes off the track.
Completely off track. He might have to hand that back. That's not quite cricket. Be interested to see whether he does let it back or if the race director asks him to give it back.
Yeah, might need that from another angle. Might have to leave that one to the stewards. I'm surprised how much the BMW pull. I didn't see Jacob lift his foot off the accelerator, so BMW shot past like the old AMG used to.
BMW is a bit of a weapon in the straights as he finally makes the right choice to get onto the wets there. And that should make his life a little bit easier, I would say.
Probably.
I mean, unless he was enjoying it, in which case, of course, it's up to him. But somebody who's certainly been enjoying this race is Connor Hind. He's been out front in a class of his own so far, 7 seconds clear of Taufik. Taufik with a very solid performance. He was under a bit of pressure from Cook before the sort of pit stop rounds, but since then he has extended the gap after Cookie's mistakes. And Johnson about 3 seconds behind Taufik there. And then Cook a little bit further behind Johnson.
Been dominant, but definitely hasn't left the field for dust. As yeah, as I said, the 711 car has only kept within 7 seconds. Probably will stay within 10 seconds to the end of the race unless anything goes drastically wrong for either of these guys. But yeah, good run from Johnson as well, as he was a little bit further down in the top 10 on his qualifying, but definitely shows he has the pace where it mattered.
As we see there, Tim Wright getting out of pit lane on some wet tires. He's going to feel like he's on a whole completely different track now. You'll actually have this thing called grip, which, believe it or not, is quite essential if you want to make a car go fast. Speaking of fast, that is grass for Jeff Beaton. And luckily doesn't affect the two drivers battling for position there. I guess the question at the moment is, Danny Boo, when do you stop? And 27 got told to give the position back to 219. So that is the Weatherburn battle settled.
That's annoying because I think if he didn't go off the track, he would have still had the move done anyway. And obviously, you could say, you know, if he didn't make if he made the brake mark on the corner before, he would have skipped all this trouble. But hey ho.
If my auntie had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. You know, there's many things you can say, but
my grandmother had wheels.
But
What a
yeah,
saying
Weatherburn.
that is.
That is Lamborghini ahead of these two, and that is then Foxtrot, I think. So hopefully he is aware of what is coming his way. Two cars that have been fighting tooth and nails for the last couple of laps, so hopefully he can get out of the way without affecting the outcome of this battle. It looks as though he's within range of moving over, but probably not quite close enough for him to comfortably do it. Weatherburn will be willing and wishing him out of the way at the moment, as to not affect his run into this final sector. And never mind, Foxtrot has gone off track there as he compromised his run, and they are both through without too much hassle.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried. This whole last sector is not easy to get out of the way at all if you are a lapped car. Made his way, thankfully stayed off track, and thankfully knew that he was to stay off the line so much to not interrupt the cars behind. As unfortunately the downfall of Carter has dropped down to P13 after that small hit, but also being caught with a 15-second penalty for dangerous driving, I believe, at some point, which we missed. There's Taylor, the car who did hit him, did also get a penalty for that collision as well.
And Wright just got a drive-through as well for track limits, so yeah, maybe staying on those drives for the extra lap wasn't the right call. But yeah, Alex Donkin here on the recovery, as you said, P14, and a couple of drivers ahead of him have penalties, so he may potentially gain some more positions before all is said and done.
Also got to account for the fact that Bruce still needs to make one more mandatory pit stop, so you'd think Tonkin would gain a position from that. And there's another drive-through penalty, this time for Foxtrot.
I was going to say something like, I think it's harder to get drive-throughs in the wet, because you're not really pushing those extreme lines, but clearly not being helped in that case.
In ACC, the limits are so much stricter in the wet, where it's just an immediate warning. There's no time to lift off or anything. As soon as you exceed the limits, the game is just like, there you go, warning. So very, very quick to get them. Vintner here piling pressure on Yoda. Yoda is a very seasoned driver. He won't be cracking too much under pressure. But as we saw, if Vintner is able to get a good run on the straight, then Weatherburn is definitely in trouble given the very apparent straight line deficit between the two cars here.
BMW seems to be quite a bit stronger in a straight line, just has to hold through these corners.
It looks like Webburn's found his footing a bit more in the wet. I think he was a little bit kind of trying to find his feet in the earlier battle that we was watching with these two, but he's definitely kind of got his lines right, knows where he can keep it flat, where he can't. Definitely, you know, even with the straight line advantage the BMW has, if he gets a good exit, you know, I think the McLaren's got enough in it, to say the least, especially with its mid-corner speed, as we all well know. So 43's gone for a spin or offline.
Another drive-through. Liam Hamilton, drive-through for track limits. So that's good news for Tonk, and that's another position for him on his road to recovery that he will be getting once Hamilton serves that. And yeah, there's only 11 minutes remaining, but it's looking as though those warnings are starting to pile up a little bit. And oh, that's Hamilton much quicker through the kink there. Yoda onto the painted stuff, not really where you want to be in the wet, but manages to get it slowed down nice and cleanly for the hairpin. And Hamilton is going to have to remain behind for another lap if he wants to get that move done into P6. Provisional P5, I would say, once Denivu completes his pit stop.
Fercolini looking on set for a top 10 at this rate with the cars around him, all getting the penalties, and definitely be looking to obviously not get himself signed up on a penalty as well, as we see Hamilton come in to serve a drive-through, I imagine.
I think it's the type of thing where in the wet you lose a little bit more time in the pit stop as well, because you have to compromise your entry slightly more than in the dry as well. So that's another second or so that you lose, which I think people don't really consider. Is that a Porsche getting... No, that's Joe Fisher getting overtaken there by J-Rad, I think.
That's quite a bad run out of the last sequence of corners, as he's being gobbled up quite a bit. Some drivers might be running a wet map, which might not have the full power settings. But
that was lap. That was Connor Hind lapping him. Sorry, I thought that was a Ferrari ahead. My apologies.
Warp speed Connor siving through the whole field, rain or shine. That's it. Talpic is closed the gap by a few tenths, but that might be, you know, to negotiate the few traffic, let's say. But yes, interesting if maybe the McLaren doesn't have the speed. Oh, that's very sideways from Costa there. So it does well to gather it all up as well. Ben must be ruining that mistake from earlier. Like, he could have shot up the road by now, surely.
It does seem like in these conditions he's just being a bit held up by as we see very finally in the pits. Yeah, he just ran a bit too wide earlier on, had to give the place back because he overtook off the track, and now he's paying the price.
Yeah, Brad out there all on his own in his own little space as well. Like, I'm not sure where I must have missed it or where he must have lost so much time. Whether it was in an early space of the pit stops, whether he'd gone for a spin, but I feel like we would have noticed that.
I'm not sure if he maybe got moved in the pit stop, maybe.
Yeah, he's really dropped away from that leading pack that he was part of. Curious. I'm sure he'll probably elaborate in the chat room later.
The curious case of Benjamin Cook. Brad Cook, I know, but
Well,
that doesn't...
I didn't curse him this time. I did last week.
Yeah, but maybe it carried over to this week. I think it's still appropriate to blame you for whatever happened. But Andre Costa still putting a lot of pressure on the back of Jai Fisher here. Is he going to get a run into T1? He'll be a brave man to send it up the inside in these conditions, as they do have Taufik coming up right behind him. They wouldn't want to affect him too much, and never mind, they've already started affecting him. But he has just caught up so quickly in those first two corners, and he's going to have to sit behind them until the exit of P or T6 here. Hopefully they can carry a bit of speed, and you can just see how much more speed he's able to carry and how much he has to compromise. So that is going to cost him a bunch of time. Costa moves out of the way. But unfortunately, the time has already been lost for Taufik. Luckily, it won't affect too much of the result. But yeah, it's going to have to, Fisher's going to have to get out of the way nice and quickly here. Will Costa be able to benefit from that? Not really. He could potentially get a run down into turn 8 here. Will he be able to send it? No, he's not quite close enough. Well, saying that, if Fisher runs wide, might be able to get side by side, but the Porsche will have superior acceleration, and I don't think the Maca has the straight line speed to get the overtake done.
It just looks like for a minute it may have been on, but the Porsche gets a good enough drive out of the corner, especially running a little bit wide, can sort of straighten up that exit a little bit more, so you lose more going in, but gain that little bit extra on the way out that prevents the driver behind from maximizing on the mistake. Just having to let Johnson by there.
The thing I like about Johnson is he's been using the same livery since I was a little boy, so it's very easy to know when he's the McLaren coming through, and he's very consistent in using that.
Definitely, I mean, very identifiable livery, the Castrol McLaren.
Gotta change it up for every season. Driving the same car every season's boring. Different philosophy, I think I have.
Okay.
This key.
Ray Costa is still trying to find a way past that bloody Porsche, he will be saying by now, but Fisher doing well, placing the car exactly where it needs to be. A bit of a compromise run out of 6 there. Will Costa be able to get anything done? Fisher sort of half-heartedly defending. He's left the door open. If Costa has the guts to send it up the inside, he gets it pulled up. Will Fisher be able to hang it around the outside? He has to be careful because Stimson is right behind him. Danny Boo ahead of them has a drive-through, and Costa has gotten the move done. All he needs to do is not run deep, coming into the semi-hairpin, and he has the move done. And now it looks as though Stimson might start putting some pressure on Fisher, and that is an unfortunate end to what seemed like a good race for Danny Boo.
A few little calamities earlier on with the contact with Gray at the start of the race, and then a few late pit stops, and now the drive through. So it's been an alright race, but little unclean in certain parts. But generally, it'll be a bit disappointed that to pick up the drive through after what was a solid outing, all things considered.
Also keeping in mind it's only his second sprint race, it's his first race in the wet. So yeah, certainly it could have been worse. I mean, obviously the contact is not desirable, but yeah, track has already gone damp. And there's only 4 minutes remaining, so we might get to a greasy track before the end of this, which won't really affect too much, just a couple of hot tires.
Ah, no problem. I found these are professional racing drivers, top of the class. You know, they'll be able to handle it, no problem.
Exactly.
Sarcasm detected.
Just a hint, ever so slight hint. But yeah, it's been interesting how much the sort of field spread has been, especially in the top 10. Apart from Vinton and Weatherburn, who have been joined at the hip for the whole race, there's no other close battles really going. It's been fairly spread out, and then you have this little Stimson Fisher Costa battle that was quite interesting for a couple of laps there. But yeah, quite a bit of spread that is unusual for Misano, I think. Normally it makes for some close racing.
Yeah, everyone's kind of sitting in their own, but I was surprised how far back Drew dropped. As thought he might have been able to overall benefit from running late, but unfortunately, even before his drive-through or whatever it was, he had his penalty. Still
that is
got back
very
to the late.
close.
It's really close, but we
Uh,
kind of caught him at the a bit too early. Didn't have anywhere to go as Yoda doing a great job here. Arguably, probably not. I think Vintner's got a bit more pace, but just whether placing his car in the right places, not really making any mistakes, and yeah, it's unfortunately Misano can be a little bit of a one-line circuit for the most part.
I think we will only have one more lap to go. We see Connor Hind there going through turn 7, coming up towards turn 8, and it's about 1 minute 40 per lap at the moment, so should get only one more lap after this. So Yoda doesn't have to hang on for too much longer, just needs to keep it nice and tidy for another 2.5 minutes or so, and he should secure that P5 in split green here.
Going through the classes, obviously for a pro class, has been dominated by Connor Hind this race. Palmer done a very solid job to top out Silver. He wasn't really the top qualifier of Silver, but it looks like he's going to come out on top in where it matters. Red leading out the Pro-Am class. Carter confidently obviously running the Am class, but he's going to take a 15-second penalty, which I think will drop him behind Mr. Bolt in the 88 McLaren.
Bolty will be very happy with that, beating his teammate. Even if it's not on track, he'll still take the moral victory, I would say. But yeah, it's interesting. In the Discord chat, Hignett and Cook and Hind have all been trash talking each other in the lead up to the season about who's going to take the win so far. And currently, Connor Hind seems to be the pace setter, even though Hignett did get some good results last week. But yeah, Hindy is he's really stamped his authority on this championship in this race with the performance he's put up here. And he is on his final lap now. Only a couple more corners, and Tonkin here almost side by side with Carter. He doesn't need to get this move done. He can just sit there and take the victory as the penalty is applied. But as a racer at heart, I'm sure he just wants to get ahead of him on track and do it out there where it matters.
Yep, and most likely he will end up finishing P10 in this race, barring any late penalties. So very, very good comeback by Alex Tonkin after the little incident earlier on with Hamilton.
Yeah, I think maybe the gap is a little bit too big for him to catch Taylor there. It's going to be very, very tight. Well, it's at the moment
it's about 14
tight
seconds
enough.
right now.
So, but
Do
with
we
this
trust
batting,
the ACC timings?
In this instance, yes.
Connor Hind comes around the final corner for the final time to take the win here in split green. Pretty dominant fashion from him there. Looked solid from getting pole position, fastest lap, and taking the win. Good performance by Taufik here. Takes second place. He'll be very happy with that. And Luke Johnson crosses the line behind him in P3 to round out your podium sitters. Then we're followed by Brad Cook, not too far behind. He won't be too happy with that performance. I don't think he probably thinks he had more in the tank for this race. And then the Siamese twins here in Weatherburn and Vinton, they've been inseparable all race. But Weatherburn will take the P5 position and win this little battle that they've had. It's been great clean racing by both of them, and love to see that type of racing on track.
See Brad Palmer come across the line in overall P8 and take out the silver class win for split green today here at Misano. Very, very well executed race. After he got the move done on Carter, it was pretty smooth sailing for him from there. And he had Taylor with the 15 seconds. Here's Damiano Toccolini, then Carter. Tonkin will most likely move his way up into the top 10 after all penalties are applied.
He's not going to get Taylor, I don't think. Is he?
It's tight.
Oh, it's so tight. I'm not good enough at math to figure it out, but I think he may have gotten him
All
actually.
10's in it.
Liam Hamilton, he'll be a little bit disappointed with his performance today. He's
I think he's just missed out by about 1/10 of a second.
guess we'll
Good
see
effort.
now as Jeff Beaton crosses the line, and we're going to jump over to the results page where we will get confirmation that he get him. He
Three
did not.
tenths of a second.
Yeah.
And there we have final confirmation of your results here in Split Green in the Simrigs Sprint Series of Octane Online Racing. Connor Hind takes the win in the Pro Class and overall. Moin Tafik in P2, Luke Johnson in P3. And then in your silver class, we have Brad Palmer, Damiano Thurcolini, and Christopher Taylor. Pro-Am class, we have John Rad, Andre Costa, and Ryan Stimson. And in the Am class, we have Matthew Bolt, John Carter, and Jai Fisher rounding it out. And I guess last question for the day, lads, or lads and ladies, is who is your driver of the day?
I'm gonna go with Palm. It was a very measured drive. Stuck behind Carter for a long time, but didn't send it. Didn't, get impatient and capitalize when he had the chance. And well-deserved silver victory.
I'm gonna go off Taufik in this one. He was nice and consistent, managed to hold off the pressure well from the pro drivers around him, and came across in a very strong second place. Wasn't quite able to hold the pace that Connor Hind had out in front, but was still very strong and kept things consistent in the varying conditions nonetheless.
I'm going to give it to Yoda. He was involved in the tight battle with Ventana all day and managed to keep his head in the final 15 minutes there to get that top 5. And we get some confirmation of our favorite F1 commentators poll there. And I think there's 8% of viewers who, I don't know, just maybe need to talk to somebody. Maybe there's something wrong in their lives that they need to get sorted out, some past trauma or something. But if you vote for Ted Kravitz as your favorite F1 commentator, I suspect there are some things wrong.
Stop licking our windows. Oh, so he's not a commentator.
That's also a fair shout.
Trackside analyst.
Meanie
pit lane
mouth
reporter.
bigot. Sorry, what? But anyway, thank you to you, JP, and Alexis for commentating here at Split Green. Join us tomorrow night for our Split Blue and Split Reds respective races here at Misano, and then the following week for Donington.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.